skiddle doop, scoop scoop a poop up doop. Sorry, that's the sound of my many use your location once in the back. No, don't allow app to track my horn. Okay. What's up to all our sidekicks and henchfolk out there in the Geek Nation? You're currently tuning into the CultPop podcast live stream, aka spoiler alert, episode 765, where we usually review the past week comics as well as talk about some fun pop culture topics for your listening and or viewing pleasure. However, tonight's different. Tonight we're going to be talking about all things Spiderman. PD Spiderman is his name.
Attorney at law. Is it?
Attorney at law, that's right. I'm your host, Johnny Destructo of Johnny Destructo's Hero Complex, located at 4327 Main Street in Philadelphia, PA. A super rad shop, which caters to nerdy and nerd-adjacent individuals of all shapes and sizes, except jerks like Brian. No jerks allowed.
Flash Thompson. Like Flash Thompson and Norman Osborn.
Joining us tonight is a murder's row of spoiler alert and gutter talk all-stars. First up, returning champion, Len, the Bat Tribble. Len, what's your favorite Spider-Man or Spider family member costume design? You got 10 seconds to go.
That would be Gwen Spider, a.k.a. Ghost Spider. I love that costume.
Spider-Gwen.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Just
That's a good costume.
2 words, and you got them backwards.
The pink with the white lips.
You had one
it.
job, 2 words to remember them, and you fucked that up.
Then I fucked it up.
Up next, trusty stalwart, Wart, Brian Lieb. Brian, if you had to sacrifice a Flash to keep Peter Parker, which Flash would it be?
I have to. That's how it is.
You have to.
Let's see. Which Flash would it be? Ooh, if I had to sacrifice a Flash, I don't think so.
Say Thompson.
Whoa, that's a good way out, but I won't take it. Let's see. There's so many no-name Flashes between now and the 35th century or whatever.
You have 10 seconds.
I was wondering when his 10 seconds
all the time. I don't know. Maybe Bart, if we got to go with one of the main.
Damn.
The main
Fair.
Flashes, right?
I'd agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Bart.
I'd do Jesse Quick.
I mean, who else?
Oh,
We're talking main Flashes. You know what I mean?
Your 10 seconds are up.
Not a speedster.
We've also got
she was never the
a
Flash.
special guest, Brandon Jackson Shorts. B.
Hey.
See, Brian Lieb is usually B. But now that Brandon's here, Brandon's going to be B.
No.
Thank you.
As the returning champion, I cannot allow Brandon, who only comes up every once in a while.
When was the last time you were on?
It doesn't matter. You can't take Brian's nickname. You can't take B.
Technically, I'm pretty sure you called me B before Brian even joined the show. Just saying.
You did.
We could share the B, but I really do appreciate that.
Yeah. I mean, I like Inspector Spacetime Dribble.
I like B. B is good.
BJS, who's your favorite villain? Who's your favorite Spidey villain who is not one of the Sinister Six?
Now, this is difficult. Is Black Cat a villain?
There's been several Sinister Sixes. So
There have, as we know from the recent Sinister War arc, that was wonderful. But yeah, seriously, is Black Cat a villain? Because I would say Black Cat.
I would say not for these purposes. Yeah.
She was at one point. She was recently with the Dan Slott run.
She's chaotic neutral.
I would say
She's just in her way.
Venom or whoever was in Dark Reign, because when it was like
Gargan?
they had their own. Yeah, I think it was Matt Gargan, because I liked them in that. And
it was the Scorpion,
the Venom
but also
version
Venom.
Yeah, that was cool. That was very cool.
So yeah.
But they were in the Sinister Six.
That makes sense.
I mean, Matt Gargan.
That's a good point. Technically, Scorpion was in the Sinister Six.
Yeah.
They're both the same B at this point. They just start talking the same.
Was Silver Sable a villain? Because I like her. She's cool.
She's a merc.
Yeah.
we'll give it to her.
They've been at
She was cool.
odds.
I always liked Silver Sable. She was cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, Benjamin, by the way, Peter B. Parker. I looked it up just now.
Mm-hmm.
As implied, the implied question from earlier. You said Peter S. Parker, and we talked about his middle name. Yeah.
Last but not least, we have Noel, who's also here because he keeps showing up. He's having a rough day, you guys. You all right, buddy? We love you.
I don't know if he should do that. He might not be able to get back.
What just happened?
He dropped
He's
out.
out.
I
There
think
it is.
that was a
Why?
joke, I assume. It was a bit.
If I removed myself for technical reasons, I did it for technical reasons. Don't put me back on.
It was so narratively appropriate.
Right?
It was.
It seemed like you would just be like, you brought up that I'm having a bad day, I'm leaving.
I'm out, and then he'd be right back.
Yes.
Oh my God!
Oh, fuck.
I feel so bad for him.
Yeah.
Oh, my little kid.
As you may have noticed from the series of questions, all grumpiness aside, tonight will be a full Spider-Man extravaganza episode where we'll be talking about the new movie and now it says all things Spidey, but I don't think it's all things Spidey. Everything we will be discussing will be Spidey based, but we're not going to talk about every aspect of Spider-Man. This will also likely be the last new episode of 2021, so we're ending this year in festive style. Cheers. I have a Sam Adams winter lager. It's festive and smooth. Has anybody else got anything?
I have
Some
water.
Water right here.
Nice.
Thank you.
I actually forgot that you guys drink during the show, and now I didn't.
No, not really. We drank during like the first.
I drink during the show.
We drank a lot during the holiday special last year.
Oh, that was fun.
Yeah.
All right. So, Spidey Genza topics. Noel has written us up. One, we should start the conversation with a foundation on the character of Spider-Man. Let's go around the virtual room and share our thoughts about Spidey, agnostic of the new movie. So up until the new movie, what are some Spidey thoughts? I'm going to go first. I'm the Spidey guy. I consider myself a Spidey guy. Like Bat Tribble is the Bat guy. Len's a big Bat guy. I have always gravitated towards Spider-Man as my number one King of New York superhero. He was my guy. He was my dude. I loved him. Very first superhero comics that I ever read. I've been reading them ever since. I've been through the peaks and the valleys of the story. I was there for the Clone Saga and John Byrne's Chapter 1. So many valleys, but also some peaks. So huge Spider-Man fan. I've always loved him. And I remember thinking when Spider-Man came out, the first modern God, it's not even modern anymore. The first blockbuster Spider-Man film by Sam Raimi. And I remember thinking, I did it. I lived long enough. Anything after this is just pudding on top of my pickle, right? That's a delicious treat, right? Pudding pickles. I remember thinking, like, I did it. I saw it. I can die, and everything will be fine. I just, for some reason, it hit me that way. Seeing him on the big screen doing the swinging and the whatnots and the whipping. Loved it. I absolutely loved it. So yeah, I'm a big Spidey fan, and I've been through all the films. I've gone to opening night on every single Spider-Man film, and I honestly can say I've enjoyed all of them for different reasons.
Okay.
So yeah, that's where I'm at.
You know what's interesting about that?
My son's middle name is Parker.
What's interesting about that is when I saw the first Tom Holland movie, as the credits were coming up, I thought of you because I was thinking this finally Spider fans are getting the movie that this is probably going to be the movie that they want. And I know how big of a Spider-Man fan you are. And it was kind of a similar thought to what you had for the first one, except I was like, I'm happy for Spider fans like JD that they're getting this movie.
Which film was that?
For the Tom Holland one.
Homecoming.
Because I was like, this, of all of them, this
Homecoming.
is probably Homecoming. It's like this is probably going to be the one that they will like the most.
So your thought was, thank God this movie's out. Now JD can die.
No,
Yeah.
now JD can be
His plan can come to fruition at last.
Yeah. Ryan,
Yes.
you go.
All right. This one is just general Spider-Man thoughts. That's the deal. I like Spider-Man. He's great. He's one of my top Marvel guys. Right? We've got Spider-Man, Fantastic Four, and the Hulk, probably, or like those were my 3 favorites from way back when. But Spider-Man is always the clear favorite, right? He's a lot of people's favorite. He's one of the main superheroes that anybody knows that doesn't know anything about superheroes. They know who Spider-Man is. They know that song. Yeah, there's something about Spider-Man, right? He's a fun character. He's not the highest powered or the most abstract or philosophical, which are usually the things that I gravitate towards. But that sense of right and wrong, great power comes great responsibility. Always doing the right thing. That's great. That's great about Spider-Man. He's always battling his way out and through. So
he's also poor, which is relatable.
He's also poor. Yeah. That's true. But that never really registered for me as a kid. I was like, he's an adult. He's living his life, And he's got what seem like fun powers, right? Like they're like I said, they're not the most powerful, but just like swinging around, wall crawling. He looks cool doing it. The costume is great. Yeah, Spider-Man's great.
Now, I do want to say, as a set of powers, not my favorite. Like, I would not pick spider powers for my.
I mean,
because I live in Manayunk. There's no place to web swing.
That's true.
Honestly,
let's say there was, though. Even if you're in the heart of the city.
I think a lot about the fact that like he doesn't need to web swing. Webbing isn't part of his powers. He could do anything he wanted with. He doesn't need to make webs. He just decided, listen, I have a brand. I have to stick to it for no reason. Like Batman has his brand, right? But like that's because he thinks that bats are like scary. He wants to do like it's all part of like the fear thing. That's not why Spider-Man does it. He just likes spiders, I guess. I don't know. I always thought it was weird.
You realize that he could crawl like a spider.
Right.
So it's like, hey, when it's Spidey, we do what Spideys do.
Yeah.
So
maybe instead of like webbing, just make like really strong rope or something.
Or just pick a different set of powers.
What?
So,
but it doesn't have to be webbing. I'm saying like instead of making it like webbing that has like holes, like a net, make it like a mesh thing, which I know he's done sometimes, but most of the time
he has all kind of different web shit. But he in the Straczynski run. He did actually. You guys remember where he started the spider totem and all that?
We don't talk about
stuff?
that. It was bad. It was stupid.
I liked
the
it. I liked
spider
a
totem
decent
was
amount
dope.
of that.
The spider totem was silly.
dope as hell.
Okay, sure. It was wonderful.
We do talk about that, but
we don't talk about Sins Past.
Sure.
Oh no, we don't talk about Sins Past.
He did actually talk about that, Brandon. He was like, when he starts realizing that he's chosen of the spider totem and that kind of thing, he's like, I just kind of picked it as a gimmick. And, that was that. I mean, I guess he knew that he got bit by a spider and he can do spidery, what one might imagine a spider could do. And so he just went with it, but then he gets more into the meaning of it all.
You know who has cool powers? Miles Morales.
Flash.
Those are cool spider powers. These are actually useful.
The zap and the invisibility.
Yeah.
Brandon, you go.
Me. I like General Spider-Man. I have never I used to like Spider-Man as a kid. Like I've always really loved the 90s show. But I was never like a super huge Spider-Man fan, but I always loved like Ultimate Spider-Man. That was always really great. And I think I like the character. I think he's an everyman character. I think that's what makes him so relatable. Like you have like Captain America, but like he's like peak strength. You have Iron Man, he's rich. Like those things aren't relatable. Peter Parker, when he's not in costume, is just a guy just trying to live life. And I think that's what makes him so relatable. Like he's just trying to he's trying to do his job. He's trying to get a girlfriend. He's trying to take care of his family. It's relatable. So I think that's what I like about him.
No.
I've never, I think I've mentioned 1,000 times, I don't have a character per per se. You know, like Len, I guess we would be Batman, JD, Spider-Man, Brian, your Flash.
It's Flash.
I'll decide that.
No.
Nah. I follow creative teams and artists more than I do. And just like that. So I didn't follow Spider-Man through peaks and valleys. If it was a valley, I would drop off and then come back. Like it wasn't like a ride or die thing with him. But
yeah.
Ultimate Spider-Man got me back into comics in college. I left for a long time, and at the campus Barnes and Noble, they had all of the Bendis Bagley trades, and I just started eating them up. And then that was the slow gateway into getting back into weekly comics. So if there was an era of Spider-Man and my relationship with Spider-Man, it's kind of framed around that. And then that got me to go backwards and forwards and keep sampling and just love the character more. And then with the movies, that 2001 movie, I was a giant fan. I was a stupid film student. I'm a giant fan of Sam Raimi. I followed his career all throughout high school. You know, as a high schooler would follow your career pre the internet. You just look up movies and old video stores and try and find shit that people made.
Yeah, that's all you could do. Those are the two things.
And when I remember reading that he got the job, and I was just ecstatic and followed every single thing that I could. And that movie, it did feel like a fruition, but not so much for Spider-Man, so much as Sam Raimi gets $150 million to make a superhero movie. Like all these things that all of my interests converged with that movie. So my relationship with Spider-Man was always just kind of like a cross medium and got me back into movies and comics more than any other character.
Right on.
I see where Hal 2814 put up that his mom got him the Superman versus Spider-Man oversized comic when he was a kid, and he took it to school to show off to his friends, and it was the beginning of his geek life. I think it was when that oversized comic book came out in the 70s when, and I think I always kind of sensed this as a person who was following comics back then and was definitely a DC guy, but my friend from down the street, Fred, was getting me into Marvel comics. And I was slowly coming to me that, you know, in my world, it was Superman and Batman and maybe Wonder Woman, and especially because on the television there were Super Friends. But that book told me, no, the true trilogy of comics, you know, is Superman, Batman, and Spider-Man.
Oh yeah,
because it's the three of them that everybody know.
Yeah.
And the reason why, and it was a no-brainer that in this first superhero crossover of Marvel and DC, that Spider-Man was going to be there. Any other time over the last 20, 30 years, that DC representative would have been Batman, but at this time it was still Superman. Those two were the most recognizable heroes in the world, and it's kind of interesting when you think about it because they both share the same color scheme. But my thing about Spider-Man was I was never a big collector of his comic books themselves, but I started collecting in digest form his first comic books, like the Ditko comic book. It used to come in like little small pocket books, and I had like about probably within the first 6 of those, I had like the first 30 to 40 issues, and I was like, I dig this Spider-Man. That was like really my introduction to Steve Ditko's art, and I was like, loved his weird anatomy that he kind of put on everybody, and that's what really got me into Spider-Man. And then lo and behold, to see a lot of those stories come to life in the animated cartoon, which was in syndication by that time for me, I was like, yo, this is dope. I'm like, yo, I like in the theme song. Yes, everybody knows the theme song. But if you're a real fan of that show, it's the music. That Spider-Man music is so eclectic, so jazzy, so rad. I mean, I have every piece of interstitial music from that series. I have it. I use it for loops for tons of stuff. It's just so fucking dope. Yo, it is bananas, man. So that's where my introduction and my love of Spider-Man comes in. And while I followed the character over the years, of course, and enough to recognize him as a fun character, dope. I don't know if I ever related to him as a poor guy, sad sack guy, can't get a chick guy or anything like that. I just like, yeah, Spider-Man's kind of dope. As much as I loved him on the Marvel side, I fell in love first with the Fantastic Four. And so they'll always be my gateway into Marvel. But I then do remember two things. One, Kurt Busiek did a comic book called The Untold Tales of Spider-Man.
Oh yes,
which was like the
right
little,
next to you.
which was like stories set in between the original runs of the comic. It was bananas. Dope. That like hands, I fell in love with like, well, I love Kurt Busiek and I love that was Spider-Man for me.
It's Pat O'Leaf, right?
Yeah, Pat O'Leaf is the artist. I was trying to remember who did that artwork.
Mm-hmm. I sold one of those at the shop on Sunday.
Is that the complete run right there?
That's it. Yeah.
Oh man, how much is that?
Hundy. I think that
okay.
The omnibus is a Hundy, and then there's a complete collection version of it that's 40.
Okay,
which is soft cover. Yeah.
All right. Well, I mean, that soft cover might get got after I after I take care of the kids for Christmas. And then JD, as a retailer, you can answer this, because while I didn't read Ultimate Spider-Man, Bendis and Bagley's run, I did recognize, by leafing through it, how cool it was, and I could dig that everybody was like following it and loving it. But I'm curious, because when that book started to get collected in its trades, it seemed to me as an outsider that was the first comic book that people I heard about really starting to collect in the trades, looking forward to those trades. I don't know whether or not you found that to be true as a retailer, but that's what I was finding, like the word of mouth that was hitting me.
I wasn't a retailer at the time. That was the year 2000.
Oh, damn, that's right. That's right.
As a reader, I was waiting for the trades for 90% of that run. I was the first. I would be so excited for the next trade. I remember counting down like, all right, so it's monthly or bi-monthly, every 4 to 6 months, and I would actually pay attention at the newest Barnes and Noble. Like I was exclusively trade waiting for that before I really understood where there was a LCS near me. It was just the local bookstore, and I ended up collecting that whole run in trades up to like volume 17.
Yeah.
And then finally got a local shop and started reading it in issues. I think it was around 125 or something.
All those trade paperbacks are out of print now.
I know. I donated them. I could have sold them for a lot, but I ended up donating them to Goodwill like 6 or 7 years ago.
In my naivete, I kind of thought they would just keep them in print.
Right.
They didn't. Yeah.
January 5th, 4th, the omnibus is coming out.
The first omnibus for Ultimate Spider-Man.
The first 40 issues.
And I think I do remember that being like something different happening with the trades. Like that might have been one of the early ones that they were coming out that quickly after things were printed.
And if I remember, like the big thing, it was they were made for collection because they had the same trade dress on them. So
that was the advent of decompressed storytelling too.
Yep.
Like
Bendis.
The first volume was 7 issues, and he didn't get the costume until like the 5th issue. It was very much.
It's all based on the first. What was the first Spider-Man story in Amazing Fantasy 15 was like 6 pages.
Right.
Yeah.
And he made it into 7 issues.
Yeah.
I think
those
Miles
webs
doesn't
on
get
the
his
costume.
until like the 10th or something. Like he doesn't get his costume till later either.
Speaking of, I think that's an excellent segue.
Oh.
Does anyone? Okay, so Noel, we already know Noel's. He said it earlier. Does anyone specifically have favorite Spidey eras in the comics? When did you love reading his books the most, if ever? So we kind of touched on that with our Spider-Man origin stories, but let's go back and redo it. Mine is the J.M. DeMatteis, I believe was his name, run with Todd McFarlane and Eric Larson, and then Mark Bagley. So it was in the late 80s, early 90s. It was MJ becoming an actress on a daytime soap opera and becoming rich. And they had a penthouse apartment, and then she gets kidnapped, and a whole bunch of the advent of Venom. That was when I really first started collecting issue to issue and was looking forward to it issue to issue. Before that, it was those little digests, I think, that Len had mentioned. I had digests of the John Romita Sr. run.
Okay.
I remember one of them I have specifically is Kingpin swinging Spider-Man around by his feet, which I love that image. So
like merry-go-round style, like
yeah.
They're just having a little fun in between the fights.
Yeah.
And to
Again.
me, I thought Kingpin was a Spider-Man villain.
Exactly.
Which he
Like,
was.
I mean, he did start out that way, right?
Yeah.
Like he.
well, no, for a long time.
Yeah.
It was only in probably the 80s with Frank Miller that he started becoming a
Is that
Daredevil villain. Yeah.
Daredevil?
Yeah.
So yeah, my favorite was that time period.
He also had a guy. You remember the enforcers? One of whom was named Fancy Dan, I
Yeah.
believe, and the Ox. And yeah. They don't show up as much anymore.
I think they were in something recently.
Even though Ultimate got me back into comics, I don't think it's my favorite anymore. Or
It used to be.
It started. It was just like the only one I ever read, but in the last 15 years, I think Superior is above it. And the first half of JMS's run speaks to me now as a mid to late 30s adult. The fact like Peter being a substitute teacher and trying to help kids like in real life, as opposed to just like, these were such better stories than, and I probably just wasn't ready for them when I was 12. Yeah, at all.
Len.
Oh, I said it. It's Untold Tales of Spider-Man. Like,
Cool. Yeah.
it's hands down. That's so much so. I'm not so much anymore. I'm a huge John Byrne fan, but not long after the Untold Tales of Spider-Man stopped being run, it stopped his run, and I don't know why. I don't know, maybe it didn't sell, I don't know, whatever. Not long after that, John Byrne did I think Spider-Man Chapter 1 or some junk where he tried to kind of like do his own little reboot of the
next chapter.
Chapter, like trying to do his own kind of like Untold Tale type of thing, or like reimagining of Spider-Man's origin. And I said, John Byrne, just shut up and go home. Just go back to your own damn lawn, dude. Nobody asked you to remix this. Like it's straight.
That shit came out like 3 years before Ultimate Spider-Man, and people made comparisons about how like this worked, but this sure as shit didn't, because it was like an old man trying to talk the teenagers now versus like a young indie comics upstart actually telling a story like a modern teenager.
So yeah, you were right, Len. The first thing you said was correct. This is not what you're talking about. What you're talking about is called Chapter 1, and that was him going back and retelling the Spider-Man Ditko Stan Lee stories with a fresh take.
Yeah.
And then after Chapter 1 was the next chapter, which is him writing both writing and drawing Spider-Man, and I want to say Spectacular Spider-Man. He was writing 2 books at the same time.
Oh, God.
But yeah, I was a big John Byrne fan too, so I was like, oh snap, John Byrne's gonna be doing Spidey, because I loved Man of Steel. When he came on board for the Man of Steel and rejiggered Superman after the Crisis, that was my shit. And so I was like, oh, he's gonna Man of Steel Spider-Man, that's my dude. And he came in and I was like, I hated it. It was so bad. Very, very terrible. And then, yeah, immediately after this failed, they did Ultimate Spider-Man. Dan H says, my 10-year-old loves Spider-Man more than any other character, but Miles is his Spider-Man. I love that. That's wonderful.
As he should be.
Brandon.
For me, honestly, so I got into comics like at some point pretty much with Ultimate Spider-Man. So that's definitely probably one of my favorite eras. And then after that, because I read that, but that wasn't like happening at the time when I started comics. When I started comics, Dan Slott was doing it, and it was during like Superior Spider-Man time. So I've been reading pretty much since then. And honestly, I wouldn't say any of that has been like my favorite. So I would probably say Ultimate Spider-Man just by default. So yeah.
It is the strongest of the it's the longest era we've mentioned, and it's got the peaks are not very deep, or the valleys are not very deep. It's a really consistent book. Yeah. Like even when it gets stupid, you're like, it's still pretty good.
And it's one writer, one artist for most part.
Yeah. And also
for the record, I think, right? Like, didn't they?
Yeah, 150. 151, I think, was the record. But even when Bagley left, Stuart Immonen, David LaFuente, Sarah Pichelli, like it was just, it never had a down moment art-wise, ever.
Agreed. Brian.
Yes. So I've been trying to think of like what is my favorite era, what typifies Spider-Man for me, and
that's good because that's the question.
And I was so happy that it was.
I've just been asking myself, what is
and I can't think of like the run that it is. I can think of different things, none of which feel like the core Spider-Man. Like the first thing that popped into my mind was the Captain Universe Spider-Man story, right? It's an awesome story. It's great. But it's definitely not what I think of when I think of Spider-Man, you know?
Right.
Ultimate Spider-Man for me is like a really strong but still alternate Spider-Man, you know? Gotcha. It's great. So what else would it be? Like
number 4, you got it? Nice.
Oh, you know, I had a Marvel Masterworks of like early Spider-Man and some just like early Spider-Man Silver Age kind of stuff that I always loved. But when I really think Spider-Man, I guess I think the runs, it's a long time, but when there was like the years when there was a Peter Parker Spider-Man, a Spectacular, Amazing, and I think one other in like mid-90s.
Web of Spider-Man?
Web of, that's what it was, Web of Spider-Man. In the mid-90s, and maybe up through like the early 2000s, I guess, finishing out around that Spider Totem.
Yeah, there was as many Spider-Man books as there was Batman books now. Like it was Tangled Web, Untold Tales, Web of, Spectacular, Amazing.
And you know another one that people forget, excuse me, it was Marvel Team Up, which was Spider-Man teaming up with a different and that was one of where that's a book where I think Byrne got like his early start on
is that right?
book. Yeah.
And to bolster your comparison, Lynn, Brave and the Bold had Batman teaming up with other characters.
Yeah, he was.
Another one had Superman. Yeah,
that was DC Comics Presents was Superman.
Yeah,
also Marvel Team Up had
Superman. Spider-Man had one. Was that Brennan?
Oh, that's Ultimate Marvel Team Up, which I have over here. Yeah.
Is it? I have a picture. It just says Marvel Team Up.
No, it's the Ultimate one because it was Kirkman and Bendis that did it together. Because Kirkman actively, publicly jockeyed for the job to write Ultimate Spider-Man, and Bendis was like, "No, never." Yeah, yeah. He's like, "I'm never leaving this book." So,
and he did.
Sucks for you, buddy. Well, I mean, he ended the book.
Yeah, he ended it. He didn't leave.
He didn't leave.
He ended the book. I thought somebody did write it after.
No, I mean somebody's written Miles since, but Miles is in the 616. Like he started and ended the entirety of Ultimate Spider-Man.
That's cool.
Well, yeah.
So, go ahead. Sorry.
No,
I think we're done with the topic. Yeah,
I've been having fun because on this Spider-Man: The Next Chapter, it really tickles me how the mask, the way John Byrne has drawn the mask, and how far apart those eye holes are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The middle of his
translates it translates to this.
I mean, or the middle of the pupils is literally the black outline of the inside of the eyes.
Yeah.
I think he also later got bitten by a hammerhead shark, and so his eyes fell.
Fun. There is actually a villain named Hammerhead.
There is.
There is.
There
He
is.
bites
A
people
Daredevil
probably
and-
sometimes.
Daredevil and Spider-Man villain.
Yeah.
All right. So we talked about the comics, our favorite eras in comics. Did I miss anybody? Everybody went, right?
You go.
Great. Let's get into the media outside of comics. Does anyone, not does anyone, everyone, all of y'all, what is your favorite film, cartoon, or video game characterization or storyline that you would like to share and or defend? I'm going to go first. I can't defend the Clone Saga as much as I feel like someone should.
Really?
But
I like how you took the question and decided to do the opposite of it.
I will not
No, I
defend
didn't.
it, but I will tell you how great it
Wait,
is.
which film, cartoon, or video game is the Clone Saga? Or that's just the first half of your sentence.
that's in the first half of my sentence, mother.
Bring it up.
So, the first thing I thought of was the Clone Saga, but that's the wrong category. I'm gonna defend.
Clothing its drum.
Listen, Andrew Garfield. Andrew Garfield. I gotta defend Andrew Garfield. I think that for anyone who doesn't know, Andrew Garfield was the main Peter Parker, our protagonist in Amazing Spider-Man and Amazing Spider-Man 2, alongside Emma Stone and Sally Fields and who was Ben?
That one
President
guy.
Bartlett.
Yeah, the president.
Yeah.
Martin Sheen.
Martin Sheen.
Martin Sheen. What
Right.
a wonderful cast. When I had heard all of those people had been cast, I couldn't believe it. Sounded perfect. And those movies, I think, get a lot of flack. Amazing 1 and Amazing 2. Amazing 2 is the Spider-Man 3 of the franchise, of the 2 films. It kind of deserves it, but I don't think Andrew Garfield deserves it. I think that Andrew Garfield does what he can. Him and Emma Stone do what they can with what they are given. And I think that his love for the character shines through, and the chemistry that they both have together on film is just, I was just eating it up, man. I thought it was palpable. I thought it was really good, especially coming off of the Sam Raimi films where there was not a drop of chemistry between Cardboard Maguire and Kirsten Dunst.
They actually dated. I just found out today.
Yeah, I know. I know.
Just found that out.
You'd think that would have translated.
And
It
it,
does
didn't
not.
last. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Wait, are you talking about them, like Maguire, or are you talking about Emma Stone and?
I was talking about
Both.
Maguire,
Oh,
but they both are true.
Both couples did.
Yeah. And Tom Holland and Zendaya.
I'm gonna
Oh,
go.
are they dating?
Yeah.
Mhm.
I'm jumping on this because that's my answer too. I am a hardcore stan of Andrew Garfield as Peter Parker. He is, to me, the perfect embodiment of both Peter Parker. This like a 2000s version of Peter Parker. No, he's ultimate Peter Parker. From Ultimate Spider-Man. That's literally the inspiration for like his Peter Parker persona. But the way that he handles Spider-Man, I didn't understand it was missing until I saw it. Like Tobey Maguire's version of Spider-Man was just, he was wearing a suit and he was still out of, like, he never said anything. He never joked. He never quipped. He was never
He would
witty.
just woohoo.
Yeah, he would just say woohoo a lot. Whereas with Andrew Garfield, the thing about that made it so appealing about the character is when he puts the mask on, he is confident, he is witty, he is charismatic, he is playful, he is taunting. And that's the best thing about Spider-Man, this like feeble into something else. And even his origin is based off the fact that he was a vain piece of shit for 5 minutes. That's inside of him. That is a part of him. And the consequences of it. So like I love him as Peter Parker so much. I rewatched Amazing Spider-Man last night with your son, and it's a stronger movie than people give it credit for. The first one, at least.
I agree.
I've been very happy revisiting those movies, or at least Andrew Garfield as Peter Parker this past week.
And I gotta say, like, even in Amazing 2, the Gwen of it all really it devastated me. I was so invested in their relationship and the surprise of them actually doing the thing that I didn't think they were going to do. All the clues were there that they were going to kill her off. She's wearing the same exact outfit, right? But I thought, there's only, they're going to kill off Gwen Stacy in the second movie. It's a trilogy. They're going to kill her off. They're just doing that so that everyone flips out before going in to see in the movie, and they're trying to psych us out. I know I'm not going to, oh shit, she's dead. Oh my God. And I was so sad for so long. Yeah, I just ignore the Harry part, the Green Goblin part, and some of the Electro part, and the rest I enjoy.
There's a scene in the first one. If you had all doubted like the chemistry between the two actors, there's a scene in the first one where he asks her out, but neither of them finish a full sentence throughout the whole scene. Yeah, and it is the most adorable, most effective. I rewound it and watched it twice, like to my wife, being like, "Look how good these actors are!" Like it's like a. Do you think maybe? Well, I mean, we could if both of those things.
Like,
sure,
do
tomorrow.
Or we could do that.
I'm kind of busy.
Should we do this? Either one. Yeah.
It's. Yeah. You can rewatch it over and over again. Those movies are poorly maligned. Also, the best web swinging scenes.
Oh my God. I tweeted that the other day.
Perspective ones.
Yeah. Say anything you want about the Andrew Garfield movies. If you hate him, that's fine. But the web swinging is #1 king of New York. It's so good. It's so good. The fact that, Tobey Maguire would just throw out a web and just do an arc, and that would be the end of it. But this, when Andrew, I remember thinking when Andrew would hit an arc and then need to make an abrupt switch, he would thwip and pull himself. There were physics involved.
Well, I remember. Go ahead.
I remember the scene in Spider-Man 1 where he saves MJ, and he's that GIF where he's basically just a mannequin and they're swinging the wrong way. Her hair's blowing in the wrong way. Amazing that made it into the movie. He does like a big arc and then does a turn and a boop and then lands on the roof. There's no physics to it. He's on a wire and no one gives a shit.
But Garfield's physicality with the webs too, like when he's messing with the carjacker and just constantly keeps closing the door, like he takes it and pulls it. It's not just like a cool. Like he flicks with it and plays with it. Like there's actual physicality and motion to it as opposed to.
I always love how he plays with it. With I always think about that scene in Spider-Man 2 when he's helping Gwen get away from the security guard, and he messes with the guard and he pulls the guy's coat up and he webs his shoe or something, and it's it's a lot of fun. Yeah.
Oh, and even in Amazing 1, where he first encounters the lizard in a hallway, and he crawls around him weaving a web in order to bind him like a spider does. Fucking badass. I'm sorry. Someone else go. Len.
Well, okay. I'm going to say a couple of things in regards to Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man, because I do think he was an excellent Spider-Man. I do think that he had the great chemistry with Emma Stone, Gwen Stacy. I loved his physicality as Spider-Man, the whole whipping, the crawling around. There is a fantastic scene that's probably, to me, one of the best Stan Lee scenes is from the Amazing Spider-Man when Stan Lee is in the library or something, and the lizard and Spider-Man are fighting in slow motion behind them. It's fucking epic. The only thing that I will say in defense of Tobey Maguire and those first 3 movies is that Andrew Garfield had the benefit of those movies existing and learning what not to do. You got to remember that those movies, there is a, from year to year, let alone the amount of years in between Tobey Maguire's movies and The Amazing Spider-Man, as far as the difference in computer animation.
Oh yeah.
And CGI at that time. So I'm just going to, give them a little bit of a pass, because as much as you can look at some of that stuff now and be like, hey, what the fuck? Just like you said, JD, when you go to that movie, that first time, and he's up on that screen, you're like, yeah, that's pretty look like Spider-Man to me. Yeah, I like that. So I'm just going to give them a bit of the defense on there, but I'm down for the Andrew Garfield love. But since the question is about the best, Spider-Man movie adaptation or whatever the fuck, I am going to forever sit and kneel and stand on the mountaintop of the best superhero movie of them all, which is Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
Yeah.
There ain't
of course.
Spider-Man. There ain't no Batman. There ain't no Superman. There ain't The Boys. There ain't no Watchman, even though the HBO one was pretty dope. But
That was pretty good.
none of them can touch Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, which is the best animated Spider-Man that you're going to see. It is the best. It's so fucking greatly animated. It feels like live action to me because I feel like I am a live action little boy reading a comic book come to life right there. So screw you guys. I don't give a fuck what y'all say. Nothing's going to top Into the Spider-Verse with Miles Morales.
I got to say, yeah. You're right. My only question is, after walking out of No Way Home, was where in relation to Into the Spider-Verse does this fall? Because those are my top two right now, and they're sort of like battling.
I can't wait till we get to the rest of the questions.
I was gonna say I also have like a take about what's best and what's not, and my baggage comes into play. But if it comes down to like most effective, successful single film, it's absolutely Into the Spider-Verse.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, the fact that this one relies so heavily on nostalgia,
Knowledge. Yeah.
Brian.
Yes. So I saw this. I saw film, cartoon, video game. So I got a quick answer for each one of those.
Oh, shoot.
I got to go Spider-Man 2, probably, the Tobey Maguire version. Well, since this is just kind of adaptation, I'll say the Tobey Maguire version, right? That took me away in a way that no other live-action one has. Just the quality of it. Because this was, like, arguably the first of the modern era of superhero movies, or definitely the first one where it just looked like the comic on screen. You know? Like,
Up until that point, it was a lot of leather.
Yeah, both in costume, like they just did the costume, right? And so the back spider's a little different, whatever, who cares? The webbing is raised, but that's an artist interpretation on the page too, you know? But like, the X-Men look pretty X-Men-ish. Michael Keaton's Batman and Christopher Reeve's Superman, the CGI technology, that wasn't quite there to make it look like really like it is in the comic, but the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man did. It was like just up there on the screen. And Spider-Man 2 was for a long time arguably the best superhero movie. Like it reigned at the top for a while, I would say.
For most people, I think.
Yeah.
So many conversations I've had, and everyone sort of just the consensus was Spider-Man 2.
Spider-Man 2, right. Like before that, Superman with Christopher Reeve, Superman 2. And they're of such sufficiently different eras that they could like both occupy the top spot,
Yeah.
And then now there are other top movies. But yeah, so movie-wise, I think that one, blew me away like nothing else has quite. The cartoon, Spectacular Spider-Man, I think edges out the 90s Spider-Man. Yeah. That was such a good cartoon.
Yes.
That was just amazing. And 2 seasons.
I'd say
so good.
And a great theme song.
Yeah. Great animation.
Art designed
good
by
storylines.
Sean Cheeks Galloway, who's a artist that I really like. My favorite, I'm sorry to butt in there. My favorite out of that whole thing with the designs of everything. Just the fact that Peter had the tag of his T-shirt out all the time.
Yeah, that was cool. Yeah,
awesome.
And it really was a good. It was a good retelling that didn't just. It was like a good revision of the classic stories, right? Like Gwen was the main girlfriend, which hadn't been the case for most, like most exposure to it. It's MJ outside of the comics or in the comics now. But it was a great series. And video games, I'm not a big video game guy, but one of my most played video games of all time is the Spider-Man game for the N64. And it was a great game. You really, I don't know, it felt like swinging around, and it was an open kind of, you didn't have to follow like a path. I think it was one of the first of those games, and I don't know if it would quite qualify as open world, but you could swing off the path if you wanted to, and you felt like you could behave like Spider-Man in the thing. There it is, yeah. And you could get a variety of. You could, see Spider-Man right there.
I can hear Brandon laughing.
The Spider-Man, the Spider-Man on GameCube, the film adaptation one that was narrated by Bruce Campbell was my favorite one.
Yeah, it was great. That was a fun one.
And because it was the first one I remember playing that was mostly open world. So like you didn't even have to fucking play the game. You could just go into practice mode and swing around the city for hours. And
Spider-Man 2?
Was it Spider-Man 2 or Spider-Man 1? Either way, it was
GameCube.
Spider-Man
1. Spider-Man 1 featured Bruce Campbell. And the one where like you would swing at the top of skyscrapers and you could hear that there was a city down there, but you could never go down anywhere. You always were at the top of buildings or inside buildings. And then it was Spider-Man 2 that was the sandbox open world, go wherever you want for the most part. That was for the longest time my favorite Spider-Man game. Yeah.
Now, JD, you showed one of the cooler parts of that Spider-Man game a second ago. You saw the Spider-Man 2099 costume. I think that was one of my first experiences with being able to do different skins and costumes, and they were all there. You had the Captain Universe one was there, and they came with different things. Like if you had the symbiote one, you could get, I forget what special thing 2099 came with, but symbiote had unlimited webbing, obviously. Felicia Hardy, for sure. Stan Lee doing the narration. And you had the Fantastic Four with Spider-Man with a paper bag over his head was a costume that you could get. Ben Reilly, Scarlet Spider, it was great. I had a lot of fun with that game.
Yeah. And then, was that all of them? Yeah, you're right. You went through all of them. Great. Brandon.
Through all of them.
I can do the same thing Brian did. So for live action, it would be Andrew Garfield. I've always loved Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man. And specifically, I've always said that he's the best Spider-Man and Tobey was the best Peter. And I think that's just that I think they spent more time with Andrew Garfield's or with Tobey Maguire's Peter life a bit than they did with Andrew, but I always felt that Andrew had the best Spider-Man and Tobey was the best Peter. So that's live action. TV, gotta go with the 90s show, which I get that everyone likes Spectacular, but for me, I love the 90s show. I remember as a kid, it was always on reruns, so I watched that a lot. It had Spider-Verse before Spider-Verse. It had Black Cat. It has Spider-Man meeting Stan Lee, which is wonderful. It's great. So, love that show.
Radioactive Spider-Man.
So great. The theme song is wonderful.
Early CGI when you're swinging through the buildings, it would switch to this other
the CG.
They did.
Yeah. It was
Secret
cool
Wars,
though,
which was really cool. They did so many just awesome things for a TV show in that time. So I loved that. And then video games. Video games is tricky. It's definitely obviously between the two PS4 games. I think it's probably the first one, but I do really love the Miles Morales one. Because in that one, the swinging feels better because it's on PS5, and also the way Miles swings, because he's inexperienced, his swings aren't always the same. So like sometimes he'll like mess up and he'll be like swinging backwards or something because he like messed up his swing. It's real great. So I love that, but I think it would definitely be the first PS4 Spider-Man game. So yeah.
Nice. No.
No.
Oh,
I'm good.
Did everybody go? Len?
I think so.
No, you did. Everybody went. Great.
We kind of hit the next one. Everyone talked about their favorite Spider-Man. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, although I actually did have a different answer for this. I say comic Spider-Man. Right?
Oh, okay.
In any medium, you got to go with the original.
Nah.
All right.
Nah.
You don't have to.
I like Andrew Garfield more. I'm just going to be honest.
I would challenge. So many people have written and drawn the comic. I would challenge. Do you have a specific version of the comic that you find your favorite in any medium? Like
when you picture, when I picture Batman, I picture a Norm Brayfogle Batman.
Yeah.
Who do you picture?
Who do you picture?
Those are probably two different questions. Favorite and who do you picture are vastly different. But
okay.
Yeah.
That's true.
I mean, they're not unrelated.
For the purposes of the question of your favorite Spider-Man in any medium, and you just say comic, that's like me saying movie. Like, which...
I disagree.
Comic?
That is a character with an ongoing continuity. That's the whole deal. You know what I mean? But who I picture is the one from probably the early to mid-90s is probably who I picture as it. I don't necessarily describe it visually in my head when I think of Spider-Man. You know what I mean? It's more of a feel.
I'm going to keep pressing. Like,
go ahead.
Unemployed, what age? Like high school Spider-Man? Like, what
did his webbing
version
look
of
like?
Spider-Man? No, stop it. I really want to know, like, what version of Spider-Man speaks the most to you?
I probably...
Substitute teacher Spider-Man?
No.
Which
That's
one?
definitely alternate version Spider-Man for me. Works at the Daily Bugle, has his own apartment, visits Aunt May a lot.
Okay.
Is probably...
Who's he with? Is he with MJ?
So he's with MJ because Gwen has been gone for like most of the comics that I've read. Yeah. But if he was with Gwen, that would be cool.
This is right before JMS Spider-Man then.
Sounds like
I guess so.
Yeah.
For me, I would say all of these questions is why I wouldn't say the comic is my favorite. Is that like you guys are having him narrow it down, but at the end of the day, comic Spider-Man isn't whatever Brian narrows it down to. Comic Spider-Man is all of comics, and there's too much baggage in comic Spider-Man for comic Spider-Man to be my favorite. That's why I wouldn't say comics.
Gotcha.
But there's so much good stuff too, right?
So so you would say Andrew Garfield, Brandon?
I mean, yeah, it would either be Andrew Garfield or honestly, if it would have to be Peter Parker, actually, I think it would be the video game, which has the opposite thing, where because it's just one game so far, and there is so little story, there isn't enough baggage for there to be like anything to bring it down.
It doesn't have to be Peter. It said, who is your favorite Spider-Man in any medium?
Yeah, you could be Miles in the second video game. It could be the version of Miles in the cartoon. It could be the version of Miles in Across the Spider or Into the Spider-Verse. Like
it could be
Spider-Gwen. It could be Spider-Ham. It could be Noir. It could be fucking Nick Cage.
Can it be Silk? Because then it would be Silk.
Sure. I mean,
Silk's not Spider-Man, so no.
I think that's
anybody with spider powers.
Can it be the Human Torch?
Can I say Spider-Man?
Yes. What about Daredevil when he dressed up as Spider-Man that time?
Yeah. How about what if number 4? Yeah. Spider-Man.
How about next topic? Go.
Okay.
Spider-Man like.
We've done the background. Now bring it down to the most recent iteration of Spider-Man and Peter Parker. How have you guys felt about this MCU iteration of the character? So there was all the Sony stuff that went before, and then with Civil War, we finally got Peter Parker and Spidey into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. How do you feel how he has been treated up until, because we're not going to spoil No Way Home yet, up until No Way Home. So Civil War, Homecoming, Far From Home. Is that it?
And the Avengers Endgame and Infinity War.
Avengers Endgame. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. What I've appreciated is that even though Spider-Man has been introduced into the cinematic universe, like really in the middle of it, when it's up and running, and they kind of like found a way to fit him in, and I guess, as seamlessly as a shoehorn can be. They fit him in there. But one, I recognize them doing that because of the importance that the character holds to the Marvel in general. I don't care, no matter how big any of this Avengers stuff gets, Spider-Man is always going to be the flagship character. And two, I think they had an idea of how to maybe do the character differently. One, they knew they had to do it differently because it had been rebooted twice already within, not too long a time. So they had to make this somehow different. And they did, with the casting of Tom Holland, who I appreciate his casting, with the reimagining of the character back to closer to his origin of a teenager, and by kind of putting in surrogates for Uncle Ben and Tony Stark, and developing that relationship, having him look on in all to all of the heroes who in this world were there first, Captain America and Iron Man and what have you. So I've enjoyed it. Now I have to say, I do find myself when I look back on it, thinking that I've enjoyed him in the properties outside of his movies more than I've enjoyed him in his movies. And that's not to say that I haven't enjoyed the movies. I have, but I just found him that much more enjoyable bouncing off of the other Marvel characters in those other movies. And I think the reason for that is because in Marvel Comics, a lot of times Spider-Man is that connective tissue. He was a member of the Fantastic Four. He, for a long time rebuffed the Avengers from about joining them, but would team up, but would always show up in any of their events. He teamed up with everybody in the freaking Marvel universe. So you're used to that banter and seeing him his personality bounce off of everybody, even when he's just fucking around with Falcon and Bucky. It still was just great to see that. But I've enjoyed Tom Holland, and as much as I like Andrew Garfield, and I still have respect for what Tobey Maguire did, Tom Holland, I think overall did a good enough job that he became my live action cinematic Spider-Man.
So you think that's why, Len, they went a different route, was exclusively because there had been two very recent memory origin and regular Spider-Man stories?
Yeah, I mean, one, you can't do the origin again.
Right.
Probably next to Superman and Batman.
Yeah.
Spider-Man's origin is known there are babies that are born knowing exactly that Spider-Man got bit by a spider. So you can't go back there anymore.
Right.
So you reimagine it a little bit. You de-age some people. Thank God and thank the sweet heavenly Jesus. They de-age Aunt May to Marissa Tomei. So you de-age her along, because when you think about it, old ass Aunt May never even made sense as his aunt, as this young buck's aunt. Yeah. So it made sense for them to de-age Marissa Tomei, that character. So it absolutely made sense what they did.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Brandon.
Oh, I wanted to go last because I'm gonna have the different opinion. But I don't love Tom Holland Spider-Man. I don't. I'm just assuming. I don't love Tom Holland Spider-Man because for me, like, I get wanting to do things differently, but also I have always wanted Spider-Man in the MCU, and like I want him to be as close as possible. And so I just think it's unfortunate that the one that we're going to see interact with all of our favorite characters is not the one for me that is very similar to the comics. Like this Spider-Man isn't the one who had, I mean, Okay, I was gonna say something that's a spoiler, so I can't say that. But like, it's just there's a lot of things about him that are very different, and even like his high school, like he's a nerd, but like, is he? And like, does he really get bullied, or does he get like teased by someone who's not even really that cool anyway? Like,
Right. Yeah, there's no Uncle Ben, right? There's no
Yeah.
great power,
Doesn't
great
seem like it, yeah.
responsibility. There's no he goes to a super smart school where everyone there is super smart, and basically the only bullying he get is being called Penis Parker. Right? So very, very different.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's
but
just, like,
that is it. I'm sorry, but isn't that also a recognition of that being geeky is seen a little differently now?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a good point.
I also
Yeah.
think that his bullying and his is more like in the MCU is based off of class structure more than it is nerds and jocks.
Yeah.
He's like the accepted charity case in that school filled with privilege and geniuses. Like when he goes to date Alan,
Liz, yeah.
they are in a giant mansion, and everyone else, like they're paying for trips to abroad and stuff. Like he is in a privileged high school, and he is the kid from Queens that takes like 3 trains to get there. So
See,
it's more class structure than it is bullies.
My thing about that is I would agree with you, but it never feels like he really cares. Because like I think bullying is the main thing about bullying is that you feel bad about what people are saying about you, and he never really feels like it actually like hurts him.
I agree.
So then it doesn't hit as hard.
I agree with
we
that.
should
To me, that's
remind-
because
We should remind people, because I feel like we are getting close. Brandon almost accidentally spoiled something a second ago, and in the comments, it's not a spoiler, but it's
close.
like Mars Comics and maybe Kevin, you might want to just, depending on how much you don't want to know absolutely anything, we can't control what's going to pop up in the comments, and you might want to watch the rest of this later.
That's true.
I am nowhere going to touch anything that happens in the current movie. I'm just saying.
No.
Actually, I don't even know what my fucking thought is anymore. What were you saying?
But yeah,
Tom
so
Holland getting bullied.
Oh,
in general,
class structure.
That speaks more to this version of Peter Parker. He doesn't go home and cry. He is an annoying optimistic.
And that's my thing, is that
a push forward, annoyingly optimistic. Like
for me, Spider-Man isn't though. Like I was thinking, like for me, Spider-Man isn't very like he's optimistic for other people, but for himself, he's always very like down on himself, kind of. And like the Parker luck, he talks about it all the time about how he feels like he has a lot of like bad luck and everything, and he always tends to get in his own way and like pull himself down and stuff like that. And so that's Spider-Man for me, and that's part of what makes Spider-Man Spider-Man. And this version doesn't really feel like that for me, which is why I've talked to JD about this before, but I don't love that his Spider-Man feels almost like sanitized, maybe, in that like he doesn't really he'll make quips, but like the thing I like about Spider-Man is that Spider-Man in costume always toes the line between being like light ribbing and like just being a jerk. And this Spider-Man isn't a jerk at all. He's always he's pretty like kind all the time. And I think that's why I always like Garfield so much, is that once he's in that costume, he's a jerk, and I love it. Because and that's something this Spider-Man doesn't feel as like hard hitting as that one.
I agree with you. I've talked to you guys about this before too. We've spent 3 movies with this kid who doesn't know who he is yet. And at the end of this one, it's a little bit closer to the versions that you're talking about or that you wish for. Because when he puts the suit on, he's a little bit more confident and brash, but no, he is not. He is not a jerk. He is not overly confident. He's just like a level more exasperated than he normally is. Like it's still that 15-year-old nervous energy, just now with power, which I appreciated for the first 2 movies, honestly.
The only thing I'm going to say is that while, yes, I've already said it, I'm not a long-time reader of Spider-Man comic, but because of thankfully being a member one time of the spoiler alert, I've read more Spider-Man comic books over the last couple of years than I have in a long time. And I got to be honest, the Bugs Bunny Spider-Man that would slip on the mask and just be uber confident, big time jerk out there. He wasn't in any of the comic books that I've been reading over the last few years.
It's a little less. It's a little less, yeah.
So, I hear you on that Spider-Man, Brandon, but that is the Spider-Man that definitely bounced around in a lot of those 90s animated shows to a degree in some of those comic books as well. That Spider-Man, at least as far as I'm concerned, hasn't been around for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
He was kind of the worst, quote unquote, the worst during the John Romita Sr. era. Because he did a lot of fat shaming. He was fighting the Kingpin and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm probably pulling a lot from Ultimate Spider-Man. I think there's a scene in Ultimate Spider-Man where he has he pulls out note cards to make fun of Kingpin, where he's written down jokes to tease him about.
That was pretty funny.
And also,
he's got nicknames for them all, and that is, and I don't know. I guess I haven't divorced Tom Holland's version from that. He always presents as a teenager, a kid, not there yet, but it never felt completely devoid of that other stuff. Do you know what I mean? He just hasn't learned to be an asshole in that fun way yet. I don't know. It hasn't felt separated, just at a 3 instead of a 7.
I personally love Tom Holland as Peter and Spider-Man. He is a very different animal than the previous iterations. For the longest time there, I was saying that Tobey was the best Peter, Andrew was the best Spider-Man, but Tom Holland really seems to nail both very well. And I absolutely love that kid. He's great. He's a really great actor. In each of the movies that he's done for Marvel, I feel it. I feel it. I have an emotional reaction to the things that he's doing and experiencing and going through. When he is under, when he accidentally helps to knock down the building on himself with the vulture, and he's under there and he's trapped and he's screaming for help and he's crying. Holy shit. That gets me every time. I get verklempt. Every time it gets me. And there's times in this movie that it gets me. It's just he's really a wonderful actor. They found a gem with that kid. I think he's great. Now there of course is the problem of him being young Tony Stark. He's basically Stark Jr. A lot of people have said that.
Problem is a perspective.
What's that?
Problem is a perspective.
Right.
Whether or not that's a problem.
Yeah. I mean, if you want your character to be more like the comic book,
right,
it's a problem.
Right.
Even when they did that in the comic book, it was people didn't like it. They made it too much like Tony.
In the comic book, they did it as a it was a conflict. It was a character conflict. Both times they did it. First time during Civil War, it was a character conflict. He was kind of swayed by a demon to go along with X, but then also post Superior Spider-Man when Parker Industries was a thing. That was also a conflict because it didn't gel with who he felt he was as a person. So I do feel in regards to baby Tony and his mentor, it's a conflict. I took it in the movies as a conflict, not we're just grooming the next Stark. It was always he desperately wanted a father figure of some sorts, and he desperately respected not only the science aspect of the man, but then also you're a fucking superhero.
Yeah.
See, I liked that. I liked that.
I liked that a lot too.
A lot. I liked him as the mentor. That was very cool. And whereas I usually like the straight from the comics the best, it's one of the things Marvel does exceedingly well is taking the core of their characters and actually doing it in a movie rather than having some auteur type director being this character would be cool if I put my spin on it, that kind of thing. Spider-Man is completely different, you know. But he's still very Spider-Man-ish, but he's got a completely different backstory. And I dug it. You know, I enjoyed, for whatever reason, maybe it's because there have been multiple recent Spider-Man movies, and I just in general am more willing to see some alternate iteration. I liked Spider-Man as hey, he's a super genius kid who is gonna fill in, you know, he's gonna step up and be the Tony Stark of the Avengers now that there's no Tony Stark.
I tend to agree. I tend to agree. Like when JD, you've mentioned a couple times, like these Holland movies have been mini MCU movies and not Spider-Man movies. It's just like I'd love to see just a Spider-Man movie instead of a mini Avengers movie where they just toss a bunch of Avengers problems or characters at this kid. Whereas I agree with that, but I also kind of love the fact that on a metatextual level, they're taking this character and this iconography that everyone kind of knows, as Len said, almost from birth, you know, all the nuts and bolts of Spider-Man, and they're just taking it and throwing it against other IP. Like we don't really have to do the shorthand of explaining to you what the morality or the importance of Spider-Man. We're just going to toss it against this because there was, no matter when you were born, there was always an era where Spider-Man was already introduced, right?
Yeah.
So they skipped that part. And I, as much
Even
as
that 70s TV movie.
Yeah. As much as I agree that I would love to just see him in like a bare bones, nuts and bolts kind of way with modern storytelling, I don't hate the fact that they jumped in this way, especially when it came to the Marvel universe that was already pre-established for 24 movies at that point, right?
Yeah, because they could have introduced him just as a slightly later than he would be in the comics version of Peter Parker, who is very street level and doesn't have anything to do with them. Although they probably wanted him in, you know, Infinity War and Endgame, of course. But similar to that point, Nolan, to agree with Len earlier, I think the best Spider-Man stuff so far has been in Civil War, Infinity War, and Endgame. You know, the other appearances of Spider-Man up to No Way Home, and whether or not it includes that, we can get to later. But like Len, like I like the other movies a lot, but he was the coolest in those other Marvel films.
I would actually say I agree with that, and I think that part of that, for me at least, is that does feel like him the most from the comics, in that like the way he acts around the other Avengers is the way comic Spider-Man would act around the other Avengers, and so it feels more natural to me when he's in those other movies and he's being the same Spider-Man that I expect him to be. Whereas when he's by himself, I expect him to be slightly different, and I don't feel he does it.
Also, real quick, and then we can move on to JD because I know you're ready to do that. You got to remember, and I've mentioned this before, I like Tom Holland's Peter Parker, but this Peter Parker is definitely an amalgamation of the Peter Parker everybody loves and the Miles Morales that everybody was starting to dig with. And they tried to get the best of both worlds into this Peter Parker. That's what you gotta remember. And that's the difference that you think a lot of
that's a very good point, actually. Now that
he does have a lot of Miles characteristics. And honestly, like I do think that just the unsung, but I think he's in all of this special thanks for all of these movies, but you know, the unsung hero of these versions of the characters is no, I wasn't going to say Mark Webb. I was going to say Brian Michael Bendis.
And he is in there. Like they do thank him. Yeah.
Ever since the beginning of Amazing, they took a bunch of plot points and characterizations, but then also all the way through Miles, adding all of these attributes to modern versions of Spider-Man as they keep like rolling downhill, whether it's Peter Parker or Miles. It all kind of stems from what he started in 2001, right?
Well, the whole MCU has a lot of Ultimate Universe.
Yeah.
Even before that, there's a famous picture of Tobey Maguire sitting with Sam Raimi reading an Ultimate Spider-Man comic. Like even
really?
A little bit, yeah.
I mean, but Sam Raimi was just like, no, this is Ditko.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like
1960s.
after the picture, he threw that away and gave
Yeah,
them,
that was
yeah.
He took
definitely
the picture,
Yeah.
and then he was like, "Cool, I'm done with it."
That's what was like at Barnes and Noble for the photo op. That is
Yeah.
not the inspiration for those
Exactly.
movies whatsoever.
Although, as I recall, Tobey Maguire was filming a Spider-Man movie in the pages of Ultimate Spider-Man.
That does happen. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's true. Yeah,
That was fun.
very meta. Yeah.
There is a bit, in Spider-Verse. I think it was a Spider-Verse spin-off where like there's a bunch of Spider-Men together and they're talking, and someone's like, "I think I saw the guy from Social Network." So that's fun.
Yeah, it's funny. Yeah. All right, so it's time. We're gonna do No Way Home, but we're gonna talk about non-spoilers. We're gonna give each of us are gonna give a very brief overall view of the film, reaction of the film. No spoilers. We will let you know when we're gonna spoil it because I know it's still out there. A lot of people are still going to go see it. It's making bank. So, all right. Who wants to go first? Raise your hand.
I'll go.
No, go.
15 seconds. I absolutely loved it. There's one or two plot holes, but they do not deter me from recommending this movie highly. I loved it for what it was, but also what it borrowed and where it leads to. I think it was just an incredibly strong film. I loved it. I can't wait to watch it again.
Len.
I thought it was cool. It's a cool film.
Brian.
I liked it. I liked this movie. I saw it and I liked it.
Brandon.
I loved this movie. It was wonderful. It was great. It was so much more than I could have ever expected. Honestly, it's weird. Since I've been like off the show, I haven't paid as much attention to like the nitty gritty of the movies and everything. I still haven't seen Eternals or Hawkeye. So like I didn't even
One of those
think
is
about
the
like,
nitty and the other the gritty.
yes.
Yeah.
That's all right.
There's gritty is in the movie, in fact. But I haven't. So yeah, so I wasn't like thinking about this movie. I didn't even get my tickets like on opening day. I had to get whatever I could find. Like I just really wasn't thinking about the MCU. So when I went into this, like my expectations weren't very high, and so it kind of really just like blew me away. So yeah, I loved it. It made me. I want so many sequels for so many people and so many things. It was a wonderful movie.
I guess we all agree. I thought this movie was awesome. I really,
Yeah.
I was blown away. There are things that I was expecting, and despite expecting them, still blew me away. And there were surprises that I was not expecting. Very, very big surprises that I was not expecting, and I was not ready for them. I was not. But overall, an emotional roller coaster ride of a movie. I got almost everything I wanted out of it. There is one big plot hole that we're going to discuss. I'm going to see if anyone has an answer for me. That's not Noel, because his answer is bullshit.
Only
Shut
one?
Only
Only
one
plot hole?
big plot hole. But everything else I loved. Everybody in this movie's fun. There's not a weak link in the batch, I don't think. Absolutely loved
The
it.
batch of links.
Yes,
I can
not
think of
a
a weak link.
weak. Yeah.
All right, let's do it.
All right,
Full
full
spoilers.
spoilers. From here on out, we're going to spoil this movie. So if you haven't seen Spider-Man No Way Home, pause it, go watch it, and then come back and talk to us. All right. Oh, I didn't look at your notes. Is there something specific?
Oh yeah, we're gonna break it down. We're gonna go villains and cast.
here we go.
Gonna go.
Wait,
Yeah.
JD, hang on a second. Can we really get into the spoilers without imploring these people for money?
Oh, that's true. Or likes
Yeah.
and subscribes. Yes.
Exactly.
If you like what we're doing here, you can go to patreon.com/JohnnyDestructo. You can help us out that way. If you don't have any money, because most of us don't, just hang out with us. That's all we want is your attention. We're attention
That's really
hooers.
a big thing for me.
It's really, we want you to be here with us to hang out and talk about comics and pop culture. So like, comment, subscribe, etc. Blah, blah, blah. And what else? Oh, you come to Johnny Destructo's Hero Complex, 4327 Main Street. Come hang out here, get some comic books. We also do mail outs. We do subscriptions. We do every Tuesday night, either a book club or a movie club on Zoom. So if you go to Facebook, and there's a group on Facebook called JD's Hero Complex Book Club. It's just the name of the shop plus book club. You can join our Facebook group where we will post the Zoom link and we post all of the polls so that you can dance on them. No, so that you can vote about what the movie is and what the book is going to be. They alternate. So book club, movie club, book club, movie club. Tomorrow night is book club, and we are doing Usagi Yojimbo Origins, which is basically the first chunk of the Usagi Yojimbo by Stan Sakai, but fully colored. For anyone who doesn't know, Usagi Yojimbo is a anthropomorphic rabbit samurai in an anthropomorphic world. So it is a very serious, it's not adorable. It's just straightforward samurai tales for the most part. That everyone happens to be rabbits and rhinos and all sorts of animals. And then next Tuesday is at 8:00 is going to be movie club. And we're doing Passing. Noel, what's Passing about?
I don't know. I haven't looked it up. I don't know.
This is what happens when we vote. People put forth the options, and then everyone votes in Facebook, and then the top two win.
What's
Passing,
Brandon? What's Passing about? Brandon,
it's
what's
a movie.
Passing about?
Oh wait,
JD,
JD, if you have it, you can do it.
Go ahead, Brandon.
Dude,
Oh,
man,
I
you had
think-
your hand up.
I was just going to say, it looks like it's in 1920s New York City. A black woman finds her world upended when her life becomes intertwined with a former childhood friend who's passing as white.
There you go.
There it
That
is.
makes sense. Yeah, it's on Netflix. Apparently, it's amazing, but I haven't looked into it. It just won the vote, so I was like, yeah we'll watch it.
Cool. So join us. Yeah, come hang out with us on Zoom, and we'll talk about those things. Oh, I should mention, we're going to read the book first and then talk about it.
Should.
You read the book by yourself.
It's 3
And
hours
then
of
the-
me reading the book to you
The group,
via Zoom.
the hangout is really just talking about the thing we've already experienced. We're not watching it together.
That's
or
also
reading
what
it.
movie club is, yes. That you got to really mention that, because some people
Yeah.
may almost show up to movie club 5 minutes before it starts thinking that you're going to watch the movie, and then it turns out it's discussing the movie, and then they can't.
Yeah. We're not going to name anybody named Brandon. We're going to
Yeah,
name
definitely
whoever
wasn't
that
me.
was, whichever Brandon that happened to be.
That's a
We won't talk
reasonable
about-
thought, though. The book club,
Right?
obviously, you're not going to be reading the book during the thing. But the movie club, you
If
could
it's
watch
called
it.
movie
And then
club,
I mean,
right?
it's called Movie Club, but it's not called Watch Party. I
That's
feel like
true.
that's the nomenclature for those.
Maybe
types
we
of
make
events.
a movie called Passing.
That's it, yeah.
Yeah. And
A
then
whole
try
club
to
of us.
fight whatever legal battles you need to do.
Anyway,
We're the drama club. Anyways, yeah.
All right. So Spider-Man No Way Home, full spoilers. Let's get into it. We're gonna break it down, mother lovers. So we're gonna start with the villains, of which there were. Here's the thing. I thought for sure there was gonna be the Sinister Six. I thought there was gonna be a secret villain that pops out at the
There
end,
was.
and now he's
at
got to
the
fight.
very end in the post credits.
no,
That's true.
there's
That's
5.
true.
Mm.
So yeah,
Yeah.
I kept counting. I kept thinking like, maybe I'm missing somebody. Am I missing a villain? Is there 6 of them? No, there's 5. So yeah. Who wants to talk about villains?
It was a who's who, man. It was every
Yeah.
era of. So the plot. Everyone that's seen the trailers, the plot of the movie has to do with a spell that's fucked up, and everyone who knows who Peter Parker is across the multiverse accidentally gets like pulled in before Stephen Strange could shut it down. A handful got through. That handful are Norman Osborn from the Tobey Maguire era, Otto Octavius from the Tobey Maguire era, Andrew Garfield's Sandman from the Tobey Maguire era, Andrew Garfield's Electro, and Andrew Garfield's Lizard. Sorry, thank you. And they were all just as wonderful as they were before. And I do mean that literally, because like some of them weren't wonderful and they were wonderful here. The ones that are the ones that you have the most affection for have the most screen time, which is awesome. Otto, I loved him in this. I loved Alfred Molina is just so fucking great in everything. Like, sure, Willem Dafoe is gonna Willem Dafoe every chance he gets to Willem Dafoe, but I forgot how wonderfully charming Otto Octavius is and how wonderfully charming Alfred Molina was in the role. We rewatched Spider-Man 2 the other day, and it was just like, it's so tragic. He was so rad. And he just doubles down on that here. The technology was fantastic, making them all like 20 years younger. Seamless.
actually
Fucking
something-
seamless. Oh, wait. For Otto?
You saw a
Otto
scene?
looked like Otto was putty. Otto did
No.
not look even
His
in the
face
very
was
first
smooth.
smooth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It looked great.
I remember even in the trailer, I was like, oh, I hope they fix that before the movie comes out because he looks that de-aging is not great on
Oh,
Otto.
I thought it looked fine.
Yeah, I thought it looked good too.
Yeah.
And I loved this version of Norman.
Yeah,
he
his
was-
costume.
He
Yeah.
was just as heartbreaking, and he was somehow 10 times more brutal.
Mhm.
The
Yeah.
hand-to-hand fight that he had with Tom Holland in the condo building was probably the most brutal fight I've seen in a Spider-Man movie,
Oh yeah.
hands down. It reminded me of a couple times literally in runs of comics where he's beaten to an inch of his life. I was just like, oh, they're going for it. Like no one's pulling bunches in this. I loved it. And also too, the weakest villains kind of got the least screen time. Like you didn't even fucking see Thomas Hayden's face until the very end.
Here's
And
the
that
thing.
wasn't even
Same with
really him. Yeah.
That I knew from the fact that he was sand the entire time
his
that
voice.
there were. I don't know if he didn't want to come back or whatever.
Apparently,
but then at the end,
he did actually.
I go, oh, at the end, he turns into church, and I was like, oh, okay, I guess he did. No, he didn't. That's from Spider-Man 3. That's reused footage.
Yeah, him and Reese Ivan. When you see them, it's reused footage. But apparently, they both were on set, and then they just decided not to use them. I heard that apparently it was that like it would be too costly to like de-age them or whatever. They just decided to just keep them in their like CGI forms.
Man, it worked. It straight worked. I like even the visual bits. I loved.
Was
I
that
loved
actually Reese Ivan's voice as the? Because that did not sound like him to me.
Rewatched it last night because I thought the same thing too. I was just like, he sounds like a weird gruff like American, and that's the voice he put on for the whole.
But that's not his voice
movie.
as Connors. That's his voice as the Lizard though.
Yeah.
So weird.
Speaking
Could
of,
Sandman
they
turn
changed-
into human looking in the movies? Like
Yes.
after he was Sand, he could go back to that?
Yeah,
It was
but he did in
nonsense,
this.
but he could do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He could do it in the comic. Why not?
I've never been a giant. How many comic book movies have we seen where they just every sequel they add an extra villain to the point where you get like 4 villains and it's just like a fucking mess?
Yeah.
I had very low expectations and how they used everyone. I mean, there's a lot of like jumping through narrative hoops for Jamie Foxx to not look like an asshole, a blue asshole in this.
Yeah.
But I was just so enamored with everything else that I just kind of like let the wall fly over my head and be like, oh, cool.
I thought the
He's here
explanation
too.
was pretty elegant. You know, it's just like, oh, it's a different kind of electricity is a little different in this universe.
Basically, it was a don't worry about it.
Yeah.
That was the whole explanation. Like, don't worry about it. It's
Like
fine.
it's a different universal constant. You know, he gets a different power. It's all good. That's enough for me. I think
fixed his hair and his teeth and everything. Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, it's all good.
While
While
we're on it, the Doctor Strange spell brings forth people who know that Peter Parker is Spider-Man.
Yes.
In Amazing Spider-Man 2, featuring Electro, at no point does he know that Spider-Man's secret identity is Peter Parker. I made a TikTok about it, asking people about it, and they were like, oh, no, Harry told him. No, he didn't. Harry didn't know that Peter was Spider-Man until he's already the Green Goblin and shows up to fight Spider-Man after Electro has been defeated. And it's not until he's like in between Gwen and Spider-Man that he goes,
he's like, wait, you're Peter?
Peter?
Yeah.
It's his conversation with Gwen that lets Harry know that he's Peter. So there's no reason for Electro to be in this
bring
movie.
it up
There is something
later in the movie that he doesn't know.
There is something
I thought
more
you'd be
powerful.
white or black. Yeah.
There's something more powerful than the multiverse, and that's contractual clauses for sequels. It's all
Another
us.
thing that's weird is that, and this isn't as big of a thing, but what's his name? Otto mentions that Norman became the Green Goblin.
Yeah.
But someone pointed out that can't have been public knowledge. And at first it was like, oh, it makes sense that over the years someone would have found out. But no one could have found that out because Harry didn't know. So it's not that can't have come out at all. Like that can't have been public knowledge. So how did Otto know that he was the Green Goblin?
Well, wait, did he didn't say he knew he was the Green Goblin. He said that he went crazy and died, like his research went to shit and
But I
he
think
died.
they mentioned like him getting stabbed with his own glider.
Oh, I don't know. It could have gone over my head. I've only seen it
when
once.
they're on the bridge, and you see the pumpkin bob. Otto knows that guy on the glider in the costume is Norman.
Oh yeah.
So yeah,
that's a good point.
Like a little weird bit. Yeah.
Although that does get into some like, were these realities changed when the end of the movie happens and
magic?
Don't start making excuses for them, Brian. No.
But I do actually have that question in general.
Yeah, that's one thing.
Yeah,
and I think JD will probably get back to it because I have seen JD's TikToks.
We have a pros and cons section on the
true.
after this. Yeah. If you guys want to like do the pits of the Knicks.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I would say that also the reason that it works having so many villains is they didn't have to introduce all these villains, right? Yes. There's no origin stories. There's no before they were villains. There's none of that. It's just like these guys showed up and they almost functioned in that way as one antagonistic entity, and I think that's like the main reason that it works.
And yet after they all beat, well, two of them at least beat the hell out of Spider-Man in the condo and then leave, they are seemingly off in the world with the Dinobots from the Transformers movies, just doing whatever the hell they want, waiting for Spider-Man to give them a call, a la BugleNet, that come and meet me on Cap Shield Statue of Liberty.
Yeah, what are they supposed to do? Yeah.
I mean, look, man, I guess they all went out for shawarma or something. I don't fucking know. Listen, I like seeing Willem Dafoe. I'm a huge Willem Dafoe fan, and I love that the man said, I will come back, but I am not doing a cameo because I am, fuck that. I'm Willem Dafoe. Don't call me William. So I ain't mad at him. I like Alfred Molina. Alfred Molina it seems like he's having fun in this movie, even though there's moments that it doesn't make any sense. But unfortunately, the second that they flip the chip in his neck, they no longer know what to do with Alfred Molina, and he doesn't do anything else in the movie until the very end when he shows up at the like a Deus Ex Machina at the exact right time. Why didn't you just come in the beginning? He sent the alert out. He said, hey, I'm here to help you, Pete. But no, he didn't do that. Jamie Foxx all of a sudden got a makeover because Jamie Foxx said, no, fuck that. I don't want to wear those teeth no more. And those glasses hurt. And I got a line of glasses that I'm putting out there. So if I can't wear my line of glasses, then fuck that. I'm going to be here in my contacts and I don't need a part. So
to be fair, his teeth were fixed when he became electric.
Right. You guys keep mentioning the teeth. His teeth got fixed when he got all electrocuted.
Because that's what electricity does to teeth. Yeah. Anyway,
when you get bitten by a bunch of electric eels, Len, I don't have to go into the specifics.
They didn't even know what to do with the lizard. The lizard just shows up already in fucking jail.
Listen, the lizard, favorite part of the movie for most of it. I loved every line the lizard had. He was so dumb and so funny.
He wasn't dumb. He was like the motley fool of the whole thing because he didn't give a shit about the ongoing plot. He was just like, look, I don't fucking I'll wait. You guys, this is gonna fail. Who cares?
You know that
he just didn't care.
I don't know if you guys have seen, there's this pretty iconic panel that people show on Reddit and stuff all the time where Sauron, the dinosaur, it's from Spider-Man and the X-Men, and he's like, Spider-Man's like, you could cure cancer. You're so smart. And he's like, I don't want to cure cancer. I want to turn people into dinosaurs. And that's all I could think of with the lizard. It's like, he doesn't care about anything. He just wants to turn people into
lizards.
Yeah.
It reminds me of the Justice League Unlimited.
His fucking master plan.
Yeah. Remember that? They were going to turn the whole world into apes. And Luthor is like, then what? I don't.
Also,
you're gonna turn me into an ape?
There's a classic film called Super Mario Brothers where it was the entire thing at the end was to de-evolutionize everyone to apes and lizards. Like that's your plot.
Why wouldn't?
That's what you're doing.
I remember Captain Planet where some guy just wanted to pollute.
Because it's my God-given right.
I remember when Captain Planet turned everybody into a tree, but that's what I remember.
That's mildly fucked up.
That was a good skit. That was really funny. Don Cheadle, right?
Yeah.
Tree.
Awesome. Is anything extra on the villains, or do we move on to the next piece?
Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Let's talk
Supporting
about
cast.
Oh no, I was gonna go just straight to the Peters of Parker.
Oh.
Can I just say one thing about the supporting cast that I think is really neat?
Yeah, absolutely.
The fact that Doctor Strange has been in 5 MCU movies and he's only had one that's his own. I just think that's really cool. Yeah. That's just really neat. That like, in fact, 6 because he did his own voice in What If. So to be in so many properties and only have one movie, I just think that's real cool. And it really shows how big and how great the MCU is.
I think. Well, I mean, the MCU has been making a conscious effort away from science and into like magic and theory, multiverse and supernatural and interdimensional. Yeah,
it's interesting
stuff.
that the
Less
multiverse is a magic related thing.
Yeah, it's weird, right?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, they seeded it. I guess they seeded it in a way in just how they approach science and magic in general in the MCU through Thor, where it's just science you don't understand yet.
Any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic.
And
if Doctor Strange had more than one movie plus all of those other cameo appearances, then that would have only bolstered Scarlett Johansson's lawsuit against Disney and Marvel.
Honestly, I didn't take it also that the multiverse was solely magic. I took it as just like that's how it was introduced in this.
No. I'm not saying the multiverse is magic, but I think it's interesting from our perspective that the way that those characters reach the multiverse is magic, and the way that we are introduced to it is magic.
Also, too, it's more in line with time travel, and we've seen in the MCU now that time travel is possible via science as well as via magic. So it's really just almost 2 doorways into the same room.
Right.
I mean,
and I would argue that our introduction. I'm sorry. I was just going to finish. I would argue our introduction into the Marvel Universe multiverse actually happens via science in the greatest superhero movie of them all, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
Well,
sure,
but that's not good to you.
I credit also to Ned, who was a surprising supporting character in this film. With his tingly fingers, and I just every movie I love Zendaya and Holland's chemistry even more. I just really enjoy them so much. I enjoy them a lot.
I wish I could be with you on that. I feel like Zendaya and MJ, Michelle Jones and Peter in this. There's never any passion. Her whole thing is disinterest. And to just sort of like, I just say snarky things, right? So it's not until this movie that I feel like she actually shows emotion at the very, very end where he's explaining what's going to happen. And she almost breaks down. She never quite does. So I wish there was a little bit, there's nothing there for me. And maybe it's because they're both like, I don't know, 16 or 17 years old. I don't know how old they're supposed to be.
Oh, okay. All right.
The characters.
Yeah.
You know,
they should be 17 or 18 because they're going to college.
Yeah.
It's the beginning of their senior year.
Yeah.
I like them as actors and I like them acting together, but I do not feel any sort of passion, romantic, anything there. They just really seems like best friends who kiss sometimes, maybe once or twice.
You know what? I will agree with that they definitely seem there's not a romantic passion between them. and they seem like the typical high school couple that's going to college and very likely won't be together at the end of their first or second year, you know.
Yeah.
So I can agree with that neither of them are doing bad acting, but I just don't think that, and who knows, that may be how each of them are playing it, you know. Because that does make sense from a realistic standpoint of a 16 to 18 year old, you know, where probably 17, 18. So I'm for that. What I will just talking about the supporting cast, I could have done without Happy Hogan on here.
He always feels shoehorned in.
He feels
had
shoehorned
8
in.
MCU appearances.
Yeah, he feels shoehorned in, and also they don't give a fuck about de-aging him, because he just looks really rough. But even though I'm drawing a blank on the actor's
John
name.
Favreau.
What's his name again?
John Favreau.
John Favreau.
Yeah, John
Favreau,
Favreau. Yeah. And I love John Favreau, and you know he's eating well because of the Mandalorian, so I ain't mad at the man. But I'm just glad that this movie, you know, we don't have to go into full detail about it just yet. I'm glad that this movie finally gives something of substance for Marissa Tomei to do as Aunt May.
Oh my God.
And she nails it. She does nail it. I think there's a certain scene that I'm sure we'll get into that maybe is let's
get into it. Why not? Go.
Yeah, visit the supporting character section.
Just real quick with the support. Oh, if we're staying in supporting characters,
we're staying in supporting characters. We're staying on Aunt May, Brandon.
She supports.
Yeah. She's never called Aunt May. It's just May.
She's just May, and I love it because that makes sense. That's what you would do is a young buck, and you got this hot aunt. You're like, oh my God, May.
That's probably what he's thinking.
I don't know. I don't know that that's where Peter was going with calling. Okay.
Well, whatever. Wait. Yeah. So at the end of, go ahead, Brent.
Happy.
Go ahead. No.
John Favreau, as he is now, Happy Hogan, got it on with May. Like he pulled May.
Yeah, he pulled May.
That's true.
Well done.
Yeah, that's called convenient writing. So anyway,
convenient, or I mean, some love for the big guys.
No,
I think
that's why she's breaking up with him
right now.
I feel like I'm close. I feel like I'm close. Well, no, she broke up with him because he's clingy. He didn't know how to chill.
Yeah,
but
we don't know what Ben looks like in this reality.
Yeah. It's very
true.
Fella. Yeah,
that's what she told y'all. Anyway,
she did some of that.
At the end,
she broke up with me for the same reason.
Oh, that's so cute, Brandon. Anyway, the culmination of this big fight at the condo that we've mentioned a bunch of times is that May, Marissa Tomei's character, gets caught very much, not even in a crossfire, just it's collateral damage because of this huge explosion at it in the condo. And at first she's got roughed up a little bit, you know, because she was caught in an explosion in a condo.
Sorry.
Yeah,
she's not caught in an explosion. She is rammed with the goblin glider.
Yeah,
that's right.
It comes
caught in an explosion.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. But even still, she's kind of like, you know, worse for wear, at least seemingly at first.
Yeah. Oh, I just got knocked off my feet. Yeah.
And yeah, exactly. You know, just got to catch my breath, which is what one of those things you say, right? And she's talking to, you know, Peter and everything. And then there's a moment where she just drops. And man, my heart sunk the second one, because I knew what it meant. Yeah. And it's already been kind of mentioned that Aunt May does pass away in this film. If not before.
Wait, you knew she was going to pass away in this film? Before seeing the movie?
I heard about it.
Oh, really?
Oh, I hadn't. Oh, man. Yeah. I hadn't heard about it.
I don't get me wrong. I didn't want to hear about it. I was trying to stay away.
Oh, right. Because you saw it a little later. Yeah.
Yeah. But, you know, exactly. That's what it was. Like, I caught wind of it like that Friday.
Sure.
Yeah.
But she passes away, but not before giving the actual quotation from the comic book, which when you realize that what she says, it, you know, with great responsibility must come, with great powers must come great responsibility, which is everything. And she acts it so beautifully. It like
she's so good.
For the first time in a lot of these superhero movies, that really caught me. And I didn't, but I was moved to almost tears with that.
And I saw someone point out that it very much kind of mirrors Peter's death or whatever in Infinity War, where like the falling and then the person like holding him as he dies. It's very similar. So yeah, it was a nice kind of switch up.
I think one reason that it got to me, Len, was you didn't see this one coming. Gwen Stacy in Amazing Spider-Man 2, you're like, she's out. Like,
the second Gwen Stacy is cast, you know.
Right. It's coming.
It's eventually, yeah.
Yeah. With this one, me personally, it was an up and down and up and down. I saw her get hit by that glider, and I was like, oh shit, she just got stabbed by that glider. She's looking like that's not survivable. But then she seems all right, and you know, it's like, all right, I'm still kind of tense here, but they seem to be walking out. It's all right. Then she kind of falls down a little bit. I'm like, then as soon as she said, with great power comes great responsibility, I'm like, she's done. That's it.
With great power must come.
She said the right words. She didn't do the paraphrasing. Yeah. Must also comes great responsibility.
Yeah, that's the actual
she said it very
quote
naturally as well.
Yeah.
Not like she was quoting something she'd heard before, but like saying this as an aphorism. Yeah.
You know, to that point, is exactly what Noel just said. In every other situation where it's been said, it's felt like it was acted. This felt like it was just natural for her to
like
say
the thing that she was saying at that time.
Exactly.
Like, I heard this saying once.
Right.
I saw it with so I was emotionally affected. My left was JD, on my right was my wife, and I heard lots of sniffling between the two of them, and I was just holding it strong. I was just like, I know. And I gotta tell you, there was a moment where I didn't know whose hand I should reach out for to comfort first. And I chose my wife.
Yeah.
I mean, you got two hands, Noel.
Exactly.
Right?
That's what JD said.
I wasn't sure who to comfort first, but you know, like all things even, JD was a little louder. Your emotion was a little stronger, and I that's why I love you. No, it was perfect because I was feeling it. I was like, this is really fucking effective, and it was just hit home even harder when he finally meets his predecessors, and they had a moment with him to validate that moment with her. It was just recycled emotion right over again. This movie was effective.
Not only did I cry when the thing happens, when May goes down, but then immediately after that, it's a comical scene. It goes directly to a comical scene with MJ and Ned at Ned's mom's house or aunt's or whoever it was, grandma, and him doing and then you get all the Peters, right? And it's all very funny. It's very funny and charming. And then it cuts to, do you know where he could be? Oh, I think I know where he could be. And it's at the top of the building of the school. And he's there and he's just mourning. And I was immediately back. I was immediately crying again because I could feel it all over again.
I feel like that. So we're gonna get into the Peters Parker now, right?
Yes.
I feel like that is some friends that we have majorly complain about the MCU as high emotion, undercut it with humor. High emotion, undercut it with humor. That's just kind of part of their formula. Where I feel that is effective because that is just kind of how people communicate as like whether it's nervous energy or just the natural flow of conversation. You're not always maudlin. You're not always dramatic. Sometimes it's up and down. It was a really interesting choice to go straight to the, Laurel and Hardy of the whole situation with them at Ned's grandma's house. And then the joke of him knowing magic, or he's got magic in his blood, kind of coming to fruition. But then doubling down on validating rumors that we've been hearing for 3 fucking years.
Yeah.
Of there being multiple versions of Spider-Man in this movie. And then that being incredibly successful and hilarious and validating my emotions in regards to Andrew Garfield. I could have watched 2 hours of him proving that he's Peter Parker.
Oh, that was awesome.
Yeah.
With the
Yeah, for me,
Yeah,
like
the-
from the moment he walks through, this was an Andrew Garfield movie. For me personally,
Yeah.
this was an Andrew
Yes.
Garfield movie from then on. I just
Yes.
everything about him was so great.
These were not extended cameos. They were there for half of the second act and the duration of the third act. Like they were
integral parts of the
I know,
and-
but I just mean like even with Tom Holland and Toby being there, for me, my focus was always on Andrew for the rest of the
every beat that he was a part of was something that made me super happy in every way, shape, and form. Whether like from the introduction, and I remember like they open the portal and you see him in the distance and he's got the shrug. And then he turns around and his eyes are a little bigger. I fucking slapped JD on the left of me and I was just like, fucking Andrew Garfield.
Yeah.
And I thought
that outline, I was like,
that would have been enough for me. But then cool as a cucumber, Tobey Maguire just like walks through like, oh, hey guys, I figured things were a little weird. Why didn't I stop by? Like he was unfazed by the fact that everything is just another universe and another world.
I thought they did a great job of showing those different phases of the life of a Spider-Man, of a Peter Parker, and really, because obviously they all have their own characterization. And it's not one guy playing 3 alternate universe characters like it has been in most sci-fi stuff that we've seen. So they're going to be different, but they did such a good job of showing these like at different points in their lives, kind of distinctions, which I thought was cool. Now, guys, I at this time want to mention I'd gone this whole time and I'd not seen Amazing Spider-Man 2, right? And because I think I was like graduating from a school when it came out and I just got so busy and I never got to it. And I was like, I got to see this before this movie comes out because I think Andrew Garfield's going to be in this upcoming No Way Home movie. And so I did watch it like Friday night before seeing it on Saturday. And I was, I would have caught all the beats and everything. I think it still would have been cool. I would have known about Gwen Stacy or who Electro was. But I really enjoyed having seen it, and B, having seen it right beforehand was very cool, especially for some of the Andrew Garfield beats. Yeah. And just to have a different universe Spider-Man so fresh in my mind, too. So,
Andrew, with Brand, like, he is the star of the movie after he shows up. He's the favorite of the Spidey in this film. My favorite scene of the entire movie was Andrew Garfield's, and that's when he
Yes.
I don't know if I can share.
Muted. Shit.
Oh.
Can you guys hear me?
There we go.
I hear you now. Yeah.
Oh,
I think it was at least half of our favorite scene.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Yeah. When Tom Holland goes to get her and he gets nailed by the Green Goblin, and then Andrew Garfield grabs her, the look on his face, the fact that he can't believe that he just caught her, and he has to check with her, "Are you okay?" And then he's so emotional about it, just in the eyes, that she goes, "Yeah, are you okay?"
Yeah.
Both times I saw this movie, I welled up because you could just.
Yeah.
He did it. He did it.
It was validation on so many levels, like character validation, emotional validation, and then just that second movie was, I mean, that whole era of Spider-Man ended before it was meant to.
Yeah.
Because the second movie sucked.
Yeah.
Because of the Sony emails, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
The email hack.
Yeah.
It just ended before it was intended to. So they never got the chance to redeem or show the character kind of moving beyond that tragedy. And even he made mention of it. He became Punisher Spider-Man. He just became rageful and shitty.
I wonder if that's where they were going in
maybe
the third one. And who knows?
Probably not, but just in general.
I thought it was a cool aspect of that.
Having watched the original, having watched Amazing Spider-Man, the first one last night, his whole impetus for becoming Spider-Man was just to hunt down the one motherfucker that killed his uncle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
like, for a
the
while,
police
he's going after-
call him
yeah.
out on that. Like he's looking for the same type of person the whole time.
Oh yeah.
But anyway, yeah, that was actually my favorite part of the entire movie, and I think Sony would be absolutely bug nuts, fucking stupid if they don't do something with Andrew Garfield's version of Spider-Man.
I'm
was
hearing
gonna
the same
say-
thing from everybody.
Yeah.
Even all the shit that Andrew Garfield's movies get on the internet now, everybody is changing their tune about Andrew Garfield after this movie.
Yeah.
They
I
don't
always-
need to do anything with Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man. This movie was a nice little capper. It ended it. We do not need to see the Andrew Garfield cut of now new Spider-Man movies. No.
No, I disagree with you. I want Amazing Spider-Man #3, where he is
No, you don't.
he's a
You
JMS substitute teacher.
No, you don't.
There was something
Working with
actually
kids?
I was thinking. Well, I saw
I wanna
someone
see
say.
No, you don't.
Speaking.
Yes, I do.
Well, yeah, I
Yes,
saw
I
someone
do.
saying that like
I do.
they wish that like when Andrew went back, or at some point maybe if we could have seen what's her name, Shailene Woodley, who was
Fuck
the
her.
Mary Jane in his universe. Except we didn't see her, but she would have been the Mary Jane in his universe. So like something that would have implied that like maybe now after he's finally redeemed himself, maybe he'll like be moving forward in a more
No,
positive way.
No, I don't like
This
that.
is not
No.
his fucking movie. It's Tom Holland's
Oh yeah,
movie.
no, I agree
know
with
You
that.
weren't
what
listening.
this
This
guy-
was his movie as far
No,
as
it's-
I'm
no,
concerned.
Okay, that's as far as you're concerned. So go get your editing software and you make your Andrew Garfield cut. You and Noel
I agree with
go
no.
and-
I agree with you. I agree with you, Len. I didn't want that here. I want to see further adventures of this version of Peter Parker after being validated like this and having this adventure because I'm very, very interested in this character. But
Yeah.
I was more interested in seeing Toby go home because
I want to
just
see
like
MJ.
just like Chekhov's gun, and there's a narrative just because of the way narrative works. He explicitly mentions that it's complicated, things work out, you do X, Y, and Z. They set up an expectation to like validate or show his finale, especially as the elder statesman,
Mhm.
Right.
Spider-Man of them all. So
Yeah.
I wanted to see him. I wanted the end credit sequence to just be him with fucked up carnations going to visit his daughter or something, like
Mhm.
that needed, because they even mentioned it, that needed closure. That's what I wanted in something, because I mean, as much as I loved Andrew Garfield and want to see him in 15 more Spider-Man movies, that character, that iteration of the character in this movie did receive closure. So that's fine. If they never touch it again, that's fine. Tobey Maguire's didn't, because they introduced another wrinkle in this movie that I would have liked to have seen just kind of like given a little bit of
I can agree.
period
I
at the
can
end of the
agree with that.
sentence.
I can agree with that because I do, and I honestly do think the way that they kind of like walk off at the end of the movie feels a little anticlimactic, considering the what they add to the movie, just plot wise, if not just
I mean,
by virtue
it does
of who
kind
they
of
are.
still leave questions for everyone, kind of, because like we get the thing where it's like, oh, we cured the villain, so now they don't have to die. But like, what does that mean? Because like, if they're going back to like the points where they were pulled from, they're still going to die regardless. of
Not
if
having
they're-
superpowers does not make it less likely.
Wait,
to
I
die.
changed!
It doesn't. I was gonna say it doesn't mean anything for them. They might
Right.
also still die.
Yeah,
But
so like,
it meant a lot for Tom Holland's Spider-Man, and that's all that really matters, I
Yeah.
guess.
yeah.
It
Like
was,
that's it. Yeah,
it was something that he got to do for himself.
yeah. It's
Yeah.
he got to maintain the Spider-Man of it all.
Yeah.
Oh, but I just want to say two quick things about Andrew Garfield. First off, when he does that jump to catch MJ, I kept thinking, because there's a bit, and I found it earlier today, that it's from Superior Spider-Man when Peter comes back, and he's like fighting the Goblin, and whatever her name is, but Otto's girlfriend jumps off a building, and it's now Peter, and he jumps after her, and in his head he's like, come on, Peter, like, you've thought about this, you've gone over this a million times in your head. And that's exactly what I was thinking as I was watching it. I was thinking like, he's got to be thinking that, and he's probably practiced this a million times.
Yeah.
Right.
So like, it
What
just
could
hit
I've
like
done?
extra hard.
Yeah.
But with
And
kittens,
also-
he probably just throws kittens off of bridges and tries to save
Yeah.
them.
Like that's
And he's just got a
49,
pile of-
no.
Yeah, it wasn't. Test subject 742.
But
Don't
what I was
use
going
web.
to say, I feel like for me, and this goes back to our earlier conversation about like the different Spider-Man and everything, and my thing about wanting to see like a more comic accurate Spider-Man in the MCU. For me, Andrew Garfield was that Spider-Man. Like in every iteration, in every like instance, every scene in this movie, it felt like seeing the comic Spider-Man interacting with the MCU Spider-Man. For me personally, like he's got the quips and everything. He's got the like being down on himself, but he's also got the nerdiness. Like I really like that. Like when they found out that Toby shoots it out of his arm, Andrew Garfield's the first one to be like, "Whoa, that's so cool!" And like the first thing he says when he shows up, he's like, "So like string theory's real." Like he's got the nerdiness, but he's also really cool. He is for me very much comic Spider-Man brought to life. With in this case, because it has better writing than his movies, but in this case, it just felt real.
You mentioned him shooting the webs out, and they did, I think, everything 99% of what I hoped that they would touch on with each other. You know, something like, "Hey, what are those things you're putting on your wrists? Oh, you can't shoot webs out of it." You know, like that kind of what if they could talk to each other kind of thing. I think I was completely satisfied with that.
Oh yeah, all those extended sequences with the three Spider-Men were fantastic. From cracking backs to what's the weirdest villain?
Yeah. Like the guy in a rhino suit. I liked Andrew Garfield.
He's really having a rough day.
Yeah. Mo just really liked the scene. It took his breath away.
He just needs to catch his breath.
Please put him up on the big screen. Put him up on the big screen.
Don't do that to him.
No, please. Please, I want to see his
Someone get the defibrillators.
Oh God. Oh God. Oh, I know you had a
what were we
bad day,
talking
Mo.
about?
When Tobey Maguire comes in for the first time, and which to me was also one of my favorite moments when he just kind of walks in, and then they like mirror fight each other. That was pretty cool too. Speaking of the Spider-Man interacting. And also, it's like, well, why didn't you tell us you were Spider-Man? It's like, well, I don't just go around announcing that I am Spider-Man.
Or you mean youth pastor Spider-Man?
Yeah.
Here's the thing, though. Here's the thing. As soon as it happens in the movie, I thought that was weird. Because when Tobey Maguire comes through, he's like, I don't just tell everybody I'm Spider-Man. However, before that, when Andrew Garfield comes through the portal, he goes, I'm Peter Parker. I'm Spider-Man. Like he says, and he pulls off his mask. He pulls off his mask. I'm Peter Parker, Spider-Man. Like they were going, I mean, I realize, like, I guess maybe he was like, there's people through that portal calling my name, even though I'm wearing the mask. So clearly they know I'm Peter.
Well, I also seem to be in some sort of different alternate reality.
Well,
where I don't recognize where I am.
MJ and Ned have been on the news as being associated with Spider-Man Peter Parker.
Okay.
So he's
Thank you.
like,
That's true.
I know these people. I know that you know the real Spider-Man.
I'm not your. I get it. Okay, thank you.
I liked how when he jumps up and he's hanging there and he's like, "This is enough. You know, this is it." And then he's like, you know, so fed up with it, and it doesn't. But then as soon as the grandmother is like, "Can you get that cowboy?" He's like, "Of course I'll get the cowboy."
Which goes back to that's what Peter Parker does. If an old lady asks you to do something, he does it.
He's not gonna say no. Yeah.
Now wait a minute. Let me ask you something, because the woman that plays Ned's grandmother, and I think they're both Filipino.
I heard that apparently they're speaking Tagalog.
Yeah, right, which I think was very, very, very cool, and I love that there's no subtitles for it. But when Tobey Maguire comes in, they have a moment.
Yeah.
Is she from like one of the older movies? Like, was she in one of the original Spider-Man movies?
No, he's just incredibly charming. Yeah, she was there.
She's just in love with it.
I thought that definitely was
supposed
to mean something. No, shut up.
Quiet energy.
I think that was supposed to be like, that made me want to, and I just didn't do it. Like, look up the actress name to see if she was in one of the first trilogy or something. Like,
I don't remember her.
I don't remember her either.
I mean, she would have looked a lot different, perhaps. Also,
Oh, I just took it
Yeah, it
as
was
like
20 years ago.
it was. I don't know. It was in line with his characterization
Brandon's looking.
for Spidey.
Brandon's looking. I could
I'm
tell.
looking, but I can't find anything. It's just like the casting news, but not who the actual actress is, which is really unhelpful.
IMDb.
Well, you gotta look up the actress name.
Yeah, Lolo.
At any rate, the three of them together. At one point, I don't remember if it was when they're on the Statue of Liberty and they're talking about the villain, their power, or whatever, or if it's when they're in the lab and they're all doing science.
Yeah,
and
running into each
and
other.
quipping. Yeah, and I leaned over to Noel and I was just like, I'm so happy.
Oh yeah,
I'm just so happy.
So many times I said, this is too much. I can't really handle this. Like, this is too
Yeah.
much. I can't really handle this. Like, even Ned being like, Peter, they all respond.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
Peter Parker, they all
That
respond.
doesn't help.
No. Like, the
Yeah.
Peter Parker that's Spider-Man, they all respond. It's like, you're not helping, dude.
You're not.
Who do you want to talk to?
I promise you, I'll never become a supervillain. Andrew Garfield gives him the good job.
Actually, something
Yeah, tapped him
That
on
was
the back.
awesome. Well done.
something I saw
Yeah.
someone point out is like, if this Peter ever does get his own Mary Jane or his own Harry, like this changes everything for him. Like if he ever meets a Harry Osborn, he's gonna be like,
Yeah.
I'm good.
like I don't know.
You
I
seem
don't know
like a real
about you.
nice guy, but
I was actually surprised that, because it's Tobey Maguire who says, yeah, I had a best friend and then he died in my arms after trying to kill me.
yeah.
And I don't know if it was cut out or whatnot, but I feel like Andrew Garfield should have also been like, yeah,
Right.
same.
Yes. Yeah.
That's what I was thinking. But then I thought about like, was he really his best friend? Like,
Just
let's
like
be
when they
honest,
were
they hadn't talked
kids
in
and-
years.
Yeah, it's true. But still, it's pretty close.
Yeah.
Also, why didn't that Harry Osborn come through? Not quite a plot hole, but
Well, they
like,
said
he
that it
knew.
was just, like whoever like came through before the spell closed, so he just
Maybe
happened
he
to
was
not
like
make it.
just about to
Yeah.
come through. Like
Because it's
Electro
we see,
and Lizard
we see
get
at the
through.
end
but-
all those people in the
Yeah,
thing
yeah.
that were like gonna come through. They just didn't get a chance.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. That's why I say it's not quite a plot hole. It's just like, well, clearly because they wanted Electro and Lizard,
Yeah.
not that Harry Osborn.
Yeah.
They probably didn't even want Electro. Let's be honest.
Oh, he was good though. I mean, he was
was
really
fun.
good.
Yeah.
In this, I really like that scene at the end where he's like, "Oh, you're from Queens. You
Yeah.
help poor
Oh,
people. I thought you'd be
okay.
back."
So that part. Now
Yeah.
I don't know if it's actually a reference, but here's the thing. So everyone knows Miles Morales inspired by Donald Glover.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
the thing about that is, what it actually wasn't that Donald Glover, like, people wanted him to be Spider-Man, and then Miles Morales got created instead.
Mhm.
But he originally wasn't like trying to be Spider-Man. His original thing was that when the Andrew Garfield movies were being cast, he was saying he felt like the Spider-Man character fit a black person more because he said that a young man
Yeah.
from Queens who's like kind of poor, down on his luck, kind of nerdy, takes care of people, like fits more of like the black experience of someone from Queens, which is why I love that in this movie, Electro says that exact thing. I don't know if it's a reference to like Donald Glover's bit, but that's something that I just thought was really great.
Was that the case? In the 1960s, in the early 60s,
No,
or
that
was
was the
it
whole
Jewish
point.
there?
No,
That was
yeah.
why Donald Glover
Yeah.
was saying like for a modern movie, it would
Right.
make more sense nowadays for him to be like a black character as opposed to a white one.
Yeah, because in the 60s, that area was definitely white.
Right.
Um,
Like Jewish
Which-
with that area, or I mean, I don't know, but I feel like it's strongly
yeah,
possible.
Queens, yeah, it was-
Stan
it was-
Lee was right. Yeah.
well, it was that too, but it was
Yeah.
it was so accurate. But to me, and this is just a little bit of fan service on my part, is a missed opportunity because when he mentions that and Andrew Garfield does a little I would have loved quick cut to just like a rooftop and you just see animated Miles just like looking like a fish out of because he's in a live action world and he's just there like doesn't know what to do. And then it
that
just
would've
cuts
been
back
cool.
to the whole action.
That
That would
would've
have been
cool.
amazing.
Yeah.
Never mind, it doesn't matter. But yeah, that would have been great.
Yeah. Oh, guys, I thought they were about to kill Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, and I was going to be real pissed. And I
Yeah.
loved how
Yeah.
they turned it around. It's just like, I've been stabbed before.
Yeah, I've been
It's
sad
all right.
before.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought they were going to do him like Kirk in Star Trek Generations, give him some bullshit.
Yeah,
death.
like, oh, he's got to go out because one of them's got to go, and he's the only, that kind of thing.
Even though
and this will be the capper to his tail.
Even though, to be fair,
yeah,
and this is the one thing I didn't really like about this movie. As much as it does play with all these member berries coming in, this plot is very predictable. So, like, the second I saw him grab the glider from Tom Holland's Spider-Man, I said, he's about to get stabbed.
Yeah.
And sure enough, shoo, shoo.
There he was. Yeah.
But they can't kill him because they have to do something with him. Because I know when you say you don't want them to do anything, but Tom Holland has said that he doesn't, like, they're going to do more movies, but he's taking a break. And you know the MCU. There's no way they don't do something with these characters in the interim.
First of all,
money.
the MCU does not have any rights to use Tom Holland's, Andrew Garfield or Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man. They can't do anything with them. It can only be outside of a Spider-Man movie. So no, it's not going to happen.
Well, but then how they do What If? I guess because that's joint. Because Spider-Man's in What If.
Well, they can do stuff with Spider-Man, but Sony. But I think Len's saying those are like wholly Sony-owned Spider-Man.
Well,
but I mean, anything can be worked out for the right amount of money.
Yeah,
anything can be worked out for money. But trust me, they're not going to do anything with Andrew. First of all, Andrew Garfield is coming. He don't need him no more. The moment when they needed him, he don't need him no more. And Tobey Maguire's is aged out.
Yeah.
So
I mean, he was already. I feel like the whole thing about his back was a reference to his actual. Might not do Spider-Man 3.
No, it's actually it's to the movies.
It's a reference. Yeah, in Spider-Man, I think it's 2. He actually hurt his back on set, and there's a scene in Spider-Man 2 where he clutches his back.
Yes,
and so this is a reference to that actually. So
that's what it's a reference to. Yeah.
But I mean, also the real guy.
Yeah, he's just
for that reason. If nothing else, he's probably not going to come back as a full-time Spider-Man.
Well, he doesn't need to. He can be animated.
Yeah, I mean, now seeing an older, that age Peter Parker in a movie and seeing like I'd be into it. Yeah, I don't think it's going to happen.
I think they're going to do something animated or something with him.
Maybe I could see an outside chance of Andrew Garfield because Sony has their own like Spider-Verse with Spider character with no Spider-Man. And I wonder if they want to try to add a Spider-Man into that. Yeah. Now, Len, I'm not saying that's going to be Andrew Garfield, but do they want a Spider-Man with Morbius and Venom and all of that stuff?
No, they do want a Spider-Man, and they're hoping that it's going to be Tom Holland. But Tom Holland is taking time off. He's got because didn't he do Uncharted? Uncharted's about to come out.
Yeah.
So and if
Uncharted,
that blows up,
Uncharted was filmed before this movie.
Yeah.
I know, but it's about to come out, and if it blows up, then he's going to be on a very long break.
I mean, he's got 3. He signed up. That was a real thing, right?
Yeah,
they said sign up for another trilogy.
Yeah. All right, let's wrap this up. Quick, let's just hopefully everyone looked at the. Oh, you know what? Shoot, real quick. All right, we should touch on the very end of this movie, which while I was very sad.
Yeah.
Two major things in this movie happened, and I was very sad about it, but I knew in my heart it had to happen. Aunt May getting the goblin glider. It was of course perfect. And then at the end, when he's saying goodbye to MJ and Ned, and he's like, "I promise I'll come find you." And I'm like, "Motherfucker, you're not going to find them.
Yeah,
you're not going to do it."
And this is after Doctor Strange, the worst magician of all time.
Yeah,
makes the world forget Peter Parker.
Right. Well, he's telling it hasn't happened yet. They've made the decision to do it, and it's about to happen. So he goes to say his goodbyes to Michelle and Ned, and he's like, "Oh, I promise I'm gonna go and I'm gonna find you and I'm gonna explain everything." And I was like, he's not gonna do that. He's gonna get there. He's gonna intend to. And at the last, he's not going to do it because that's the Peter Parker thing to do. And I thought it was handled beautifully. I knew it was going to happen, but it was handled beautifully. And even just the sweeping aside her hair and you see the very small Band-Aid.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Nice little way to just hammer it home that he may have been wobbling on it, but then as soon as he saw the Band-Aid, he was like, no, okay, I can't do
Which
it.
also it brings up a host of little kind of Swiss cheese lives that these people now lead. Where
Yes.
Ned, what does he think he did for a decent portion of his childhood?
Right.
It's like, well, I know I went to this park, but there was somebody there, this phantom in my mind. And how does Peter Parker pay the rent? Does his bank
because he
remember
doesn't have
him?
a GED because he's studying for the GED. He
Does
doesn't
he
even
have-
have a
yeah.
high school diploma.
I mean, he has no government records, presumably, or anything.
I mean, it also raises the question, why did he leave in the first place? The spell goes, you could just stay standing there. and
That's
just
what I
introduce
said.
yourself.
That's true.
That's what I said to Noel immediately after the movie. I'm like, why swing away? Just hang out there and be like, all right, this is what just happened.
I am this, right.
This is why you're standing directly under the Statue of Liberty, which has been destroyed.
Doctor Strange also is probably wondering what he is doing here.
Yeah.
But Len, you make a really good point. Like, have a 10-second conversation with Peter Parker about what this will entail. And the spell seemed easy enough to modify before he started it.
It was, because he was modifying it as he did it, and it didn't break anything until he did it 6 times.
Right, exactly. Like, just talk to him, say, all right, everyone's going to forget. Is that cool? And then everything he would have, I think, JD, you mentioned that just everyone should know that already knows, but nobody else should know. And then it's done and it's fine.
But just the fact that Doctor Strange would even contemplate, doing anything like this because your friends couldn't get into the college that you wanted. You just have asked the question, well, did you write a letter? That's the first thing you say. You didn't even try to change their mind. That's because we've been going on about how Spider-Man is supposed to be about 17, 18 years old.
Right.
Doctor Strange is a full-fledged adult. Possibly older than anyone in the MCU outside of Steve Rogers. You'd think the common sense would come from him.
Right.
Yeah, but this Doctor Strange kind of little loosey-goosey.
He shoots from the hip, it's true.
Yeah, because he even says he's done this spell before to cover up a party. He doesn't think of it as a big deal.
That's true. But this is a worldwide, also, Peter, your personal life will be upended kind of thing.
I saw a meme today. It was basically the between Peter and Doctor Strange when he's first asking him about the spell or whatever. And instead of what he says in the movie, he says, can you make everyone forget what Mysterio said?
Yeah. And that's that.
That's
now,
it.
JD.
Movie over.
Right. You and I remember it a little differently, and you've seen it twice now, so there's a strong chance that you're right. But my understanding at the final time, Peter says to Doctor Strange, oh, it would undo it if you cast the original spell. And then he does, and then everyone completely forgets him. And you said he says to modify the original spell and have everyone forget him, and that wasn't part of.
Yeah, I think it was a very quick little thing. I think he says, what if we do the original spell, but make everyone forget Peter Parker?
Right.
Not that I am Spider-Man, just forget Peter Parker.
Yeah. Which is such a, I don't know. Which also leads us to the new status quo, which I was a little bummed out about because, as I said at the top of this, I had been enjoying this alternate take. I kind of had envisioned him becoming the new Tony Stark, Captain Marvel kind of the new Thor, and Black Panther originally as kind of the new Captain America of the Avengers. And they all had their own personalities, so it's not like they would just be retelling those stories, but just in terms of power and capabilities and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I thought that was going to be real cool. And I like seeing him being able to make crazy new outfits and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool. I'm sure seeing him in the classic-ish Peter Parker role. I imagine he'll get a job taking photos for the Daily Bugle, and he'll be scraping by, and a whole new cast of characters will know him, and he'll find a way to open up a bank account, with no social security. Oh, and Charlie Cox was in it.
That's what I've been trying to bring this up. I'm like, we have to mention that at some point.
with a great line too. I'm a really
Yeah.
good lawyer.
Yeah.
That was really funny.
Very
that was
casual
my
about
favorite
showing his
scene.
powers to people.
Say that again, Len.
That was my favorite scene.
Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
It
don't
was
get me
great.
wrong. I mean, the May scene was definitely heartbreaking, but that was
sure.
that was the funnest scene.
It'd be weird if the other one was your favorite scene.
Right,
And also,
right.
for me, that was the only one that like I wasn't expecting at all. Like I was expecting
Yeah.
to see the Spider-Man, and like when May, like you could, like it was a possibility once she got hit and everything. But I was not at all at any point expecting Daredevil to be on my freaking screen. I just was like tensing up for a bit, and from that point on, I was like, now anything can happen.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Well,
when
I had
this-
heard a lot of rumors, but I didn't know how much to put any
I never
stock
put
into
much
those
stock in
rumors.
them, honestly. Yeah.
But it was a cool way to do it too. You know,
Mhm.
not as Daredevil, but you see that he has powers, and it lasted a very good amount of time. It was cool.
And it was very Marvel. Like this is how
Yes.
their worlds, the comic books sometimes
Very
will
like
collide.
Stan Lee Marvel.
Yeah.
Where like Thor's flying by in the background is one I always
Mhm.
remember. Yeah,
Mhm. So yeah, it was dope. It was really cool.
yeah.
All right, so let's rate our Spider-Man movies real quick, and then we'll get out of here.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go first, just because I already
Okay, wait a
have
minute,
them.
wait. Are we
Wait,
just
what?
doing the Spider-Man live action movies?
No,
No.
we can also include Into the Spider-Verse.
Okay.
I mean,
Oh,
it's so
all bets are off now.
yeah, no, it's
Yeah. Like
That makes it much easier for Len.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, actually, before we do that, Hal 2814. At the end of it was heartbreaking when Peter didn't tell MJ and Ned about who he was. But speaking of Brian's Swiss cheese memory that he mentioned earlier, MJ was still wearing the necklace from Far From Home.
Yes. So
So,
where'd
yeah.
she get the necklace?
Yeah.
Who's the boy that gave her the necklace now?
Haunts
Yeah.
her every day that she cannot.
Yeah.
That's why she wears it. It's,
Yeah.
it's
One
a
day I'll
great
remember.
mystery. Yeah.
Honestly, no.
Okay. So movies, Spider-Man movies. I'm gonna go worst to best, real quick. I'm just gonna blow through them.
Oh, did he
Spider-Man
cheat? He already
19.
did it.
Yeah, I read the notes and I
This was
did
in the
with
notes.
I understood the
Mm.
assignment.
I
Spider-Man
can't believe
19.
you did that.
Yeah, I'm 43. TikTok reference. Spider-Man 1977, the made-for-TV movie.
Oh my God.
Spider-Man-
We're
I didn't
including
go that
old
far.
people movies.
I mean, I loved those at the time, swinging from that tree, testing out those
Yeah.
web shooters. Yeah.
The way they wrapped the cord around and then just did it backwards and show it.
Mhm.
Right. Spider-Man 3, Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 3. Then Amazing Spider-Man 2. Then Far From Home, Mysterio movie. Then Amazing 1. Then Spider-Man 1. Then Homecoming. Then Spider-Man 2. Then Into the Spider-Verse. And it's kind of, I don't know where to put I still have to peek around my boner. For No Way Home. No Way Home and Into the Spider-Verse are sort of neck and neck.
Oh, please. You'll change your mind next week. You'll see
Exactly.
the
That's
light.
why
That's very true. Yes.
You're going
The
to see
whole
the
list
light
will
next
change
week.
tomorrow. for
because
me.
and the thing I said to Noel as soon as the movie was over was it's up there with Into the Spider-Verse, but the Spider-Verse might win because you don't have to watch 30 years of Spider-Man movies in order to get the full effect.
But you watched them already.
But I did. So
But this
maybe
is
that's
your
my
favorite. Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Favorite versus better. It's gonna change every single day. So like,
yeah.
I'll go from best to worst, and I will not include the 1977 TV movie.
Yes, you should.
You're willing, it would
Just
edge out
weak.
number one.
Because I'm weak. I've also never seen it. I have no frame of reference
Trash,
whatsoever.
Brock.
I'm fine.
Consider yourself blessed.
I'm fine with that. I think it's gonna be for me emotionally No Way Home, only because it's 30 years of familiarity that's executed affectionately and competently. Recognizing that I think Into the Spider-Verse is actually a better movie singularly. So that's 1 and 2. Then Spider-Man 2, Amazing Spider-Man, Spider-Man, Spider-Man 3, and then Amazing Spider-Man 2. Oh wait, hang on, I forgot the whole Tom Holland stuff. Oh shit. So it's
Which he hated.
No Way Home for now. Into the Spider-Verse. I keep wanting to say Across the Spider-Verse because that's the title of the sequel.
Mm-hmm.
Into the Spider-Verse. Still Spider-Man 2. Then Spider-Man. Oh no, then Amazing Spider-Man, then Spider-Man. Because I actually do like Amazing Spider-Man more than Spider-Man.
Okay. Yeah.
And then Homecoming. No way. Far From Home. I liked Far From Home a lot. I really do like Mysterio. I thought it was great.
Yeah.
And then we filter out the rest the same as the list. It's Spider-Man 3, Amazing Spider-Man 2.
All right. Well, I will go. I'll go worst to best. Well, worst to second place because we know what first place is.
You refuse to say it.
Oh, I'll say it at the time. I'll say it at the time, but right now, hey. So the worst to me would be probably Spider-Man 3 because God, that's god awful. The next to last, this is how bad that movie is. That above it, barely, is the 1997 TV movie Spider-Man. and that's only because like I get, this is the first live action Spider-Man, like
right.
almost.
And it did a lot for its time, I mean, maybe not a lot, but
it's garbage. But anyway, it's what it was. And when I saw it as a kid, I was like, oh my God. Then I was like, what the fuck? So then is that, then I would go probably Amazing Spider-Man 2. Then Far From Home, because I thought Far From Home wasn't bad. Because now you're getting into things that just aren't bad, but just maybe just didn't gel together that great. And that's what Far From Home was for me. Then probably Amazing Spider-Man. No, then Homecoming, then Amazing Spider-Man, then Spider-Man, then Spidey Super Stories from the Electric Company. I'm joking. So I'm at Spider-Man. Then I would go. No Way Home was good. I would go there. Then I would go, and I'm putting in here. I don't care what y'all say. Civil War, because that was my introduction to Spider-Man, and it was still super dope, super cool, and I still giggle like a kid when he swings around Giant Man and brings him down, a la Star Wars. I loved it. Then looking down on all of those from a tower on high, where
you mentioned Spider-Man 2.
I did mention Spider-Man 2, didn't I? I sure didn't. Okay.
Yeah, I was waiting to see if you were going to rank No Way Home higher than 2 or not.
Yeah.
That's
all right,
so
I went No Way Home. I will put Spider-Man 2 above No Way Home, because that's how much I like Alfred Molina. And then up high, next to only the Lord Jesus himself, is Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
If the height is so massive that if Into the Spider-Verse dropped a penny to reach Spider-Man 2, it would hit with the force of like 1,000 pounds because all the
Mythbusters did an episode on that.
Yes, they would feel it in 1997 Spider-Man.
Also, you're leaving out Spider-Man Strikes Back and Spider-Man the Dragon's Challenge.
From the Japanese ones?
No, actually. I don't know. I looked up the 1977 movie, and it looks like there were 2 sequels.
Oh, there were 3 of those. Yeah.
Yeah,
One of them had, like, an
they're
evil
all
Spider-Man.
garbage. First of all, I don't know if you know this, Brandon. These actually were just stitched together episodes of this stupid TV show, and they're god awful. Never
Oh,
did
is that
Better,
right?
better or worse than the first live action Captain America movie?
Better. Oh, better. Yeah, but
They're better. Only,
Not the motorcycle helmet one, the fake
that's what
ears one.
oh, the fake one.
Well, the
uh,
fake ears one with the Red Skull, who was actually Italian.
No, these are
sorry,
still
Jimmy.
I don't know that
these
one.
are
sorry, I
still
didn't-
better. These are still better, and the reason
they?
why they're better, and they're not good, but the reason why they're better is because the guy that plays Peter Parker, Spider-Man, who's way too old, Neil Hammond, I think his name is, he is doing his best. And everyone else, he is.
What? Hey, why didn't you get the job? Well, I was doing my best. Or why didn't you win an award? I was doing my best. Like, why didn't
Listen,
you?
I mean,
Like,
he also
so
had
in this movie,
he had a
trying to do
Spider-Man
better.
costume on, you guys, on TV.
He
It
did,
was cool.
I want
Nicholas
on my
Nicholas
tombstone to say-
Hammond.
Yeah, it was
Hammond,
Nicholas
there you
Hammond.
go.
I want on my tombstone to say, like, oh, he was doing his best. Like, he did his best.
The outfit,
Like,
I mean,
the costume was the costume was cool.
Yeah.
It had mirrored
Yeah.
the mirrored glasses. It was cool. I remember
The
really liking
costume
that
was
when I
cool
a kid.
when they first see it, because all you see is his costume. But then in
Yeah.
the TV series, they
See the
went
zipper?
cheap. Well, you saw the zipper, but also
Yeah.
the cartridges were on the outside of his glove,
Yeah, that part.
and they
of
were
it.
only on one glove. And
Oh,
then
really?
when you see him go like this, and then it would cut to, and someone would just throw a net into the
Yeah.
scene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which you would think also, right? It's got to be more expensive to show these, because the other way, you don't need anything.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Why did you
I've got
go for
the
the?
hair.
Right.
All right, who's up?
Brandon
I
I
or
think
Brian?
Brian and then me.
Oh, sure. I'll go from the top. I think it's either this one, No Way Home, because of the like magnitude of Spider-Men that are in it, and how cool they are all individually and together, or Spider-Man 2, which has I was one of the people that for a long time said that was, if not the best, a strong contender for the best superhero movie at all. Like, it just did Spider-Man. Now, I got to tell you, I didn't see Into the Spider-Verse for like way after a lot of other people saw it. And it was a little bit of a victim of my expectations in that I thought that there was going to be more Spider-Verse stuff. I just thought there was going to have more alternate versions of Spider-Man and that kind of thing. But
There's
I thought
five of them in there.
Yeah, but I thought he was going into the Spider-Verse. Like, I thought he was going to, like, go to the noir world. That's just
He
what I
did
thought
this
it was. No, I mean, it's not like it should have been that. I just thought that it was that. Like, he was going to go to the noir world and, like, that kind of thing. And it was it just wasn't that story, But it was great. And also, everyone had already told me how awesome it was. And that's not usually great
that's not
for
helpful.
a movie. You know what I mean? So after those two, it gets a little, I don't know, I guess Spider-Man 1, maybe at least one of the Tobey Maguires, Far From Home, I think I liked a little bit better than, I'm sorry, Tom Holland. Far From Home, I think. Oh, that scene is awesome. And Phil Lamar is in it, which is also cool.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I don't know.
Is he the guy who
Homecoming.
goes, "Any more bright ideas?"
No, I think he's the guy that says it's just a kid.
Oh,
I
okay.
think he's the one that catches him. But Phil Lamar, I mean, I've been following his animated, his voice career for a long
Exploits.
time. Yeah. So what else is there? Like, then Amazing Spider-Man, I guess. Amazing Spider-Man 2, and then down at the bottom, Spider-Man 3, which is not only really bad, it was such a fall of expectations because Spider-Man 2 was right before it. And then, like I said, even at the time, if the order had been reversed, I don't think I would have really disliked Spider-Man 3 that much, But coming after Spider-Man 2, I was like, what the hell was that?
Especially with Spider-Man 3's trailer. I rewatched that trailer so many times, and I was like, "This is gonna be just the best thing ever."
Yeah,
we
it
should
has some
do
cool shit.
we
but-
should do I honestly do think that it's worth it to do like a deep dive, just separate podcast about Spider-Man 3. Like, there's so many weird things that are happening at the same time, and like expectations versus realities, what Sam Raimi wanted to accomplish versus what Sony wanted to accomplish,
Right,
and just like
yeah.
all of it attacking each other. Like, he did Venom, but he did it via the scope of 1960s Steve Ditko era. So yes,
Yeah.
Peter Parker's a fucking dummy, and he would disco dance if he had
Yeah.
power. Like,
And that wasn't. I didn't have a big
get it.
problem with that part.
like, it's just
Yeah.
it's just so many misfires.
There was so much of that movie that seemed like it was about to get really cool.
Yeah.
You know, like when he's with Harry Osborn, it's like, here we go. And then we did not go the whole time.
Yeah.
Birth of Sandman.
I would
was
love to do it. I would love to do a deep dive onto all the Spider-Man movies. You know me. All right, Brandon.
So-
Brandon.
For me,
Take us home.
something I was realizing as I was watching this movie, just as a little aside, is that like it's kind of made for me. Like, I was 6 years old when the first Tobey Maguire movie came out, so like I was a kid as I watched those movies, and then like I was in high school as I watched the Andrew Garfield movie. So like I've grown up with like these movies, so like it was real special for me. But yeah, so I would say number 1 would be Into the Spider-Verse. Number 2 would be No Way Home. Number 3 would be Spider-Man 2. Number 4 would be Amazing Spider-Man. Number 5 would be Spider-Man 1. Oh wait, there's other Tom Holland movies.
Yeah, he's hard to slip in there.
Doing the same thing I did.
Yeah. Amazing Spider-Man would still, so it's all there, but just Amazing Spider-Man, then it would be Tom Holland, both of the Tom
Homecoming.
Holland. No, it would be Tom Holland, Far From Home. Then it would be Spider-Man 1. Then it would be Homecoming. Then it would be Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man 2. Then Spider-Man 3.
I
Wow,
respect the fact
Homecoming
that
is
you
in
like.
your bottom 3. Wow.
Well, I respect the fact that you like Far From Home more than Spider-Man 2001.
Yeah.
That's right. That's
Yeah, I
wild.
think that
I'm
too.
down with that. I like
I
that.
think
I
it's
don't-
telling though that we all forgot to put them in the list.
Well,
Yeah,
Is it
that's my
partially because
thing.
the other ones are
Home-
more just straight up
Homecoming
Spider-Man?
and Far From Home are just they feel like Avengers prequel and Avengers
Exactly. Yeah,
2.5.
yeah,
right?
yeah.
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 Or 3.5.
Yeah.
Like they're very tied to what happens directly after or directly after Civil War and then directly after
Yeah.
Infinity War.
Definitely.
Or sorry, Endgame. So like it's hard to just think of them as singular movies because even the plot has nothing to do with just Peter.
Right.
It's Peter as a reflection of what's happening in
Right,
all
right.
of the other movies. So
Right.
it's difficult. Yeah.
Which is what goes back to my problem in the beginning with like the Tom Holland.
So when I
Well,
dropped
here you go
out,
now.
before we sign off, when I dropped out and my computer decided to be an asshole, did you guys talk about his costume now?
No.
No, but I love that blue.
Yeah.
Like we
Love
just
that
saw
blue, that shimmery blue.
we saw a 3-movie origin to put him at square one.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I mean, talk about decompressed storytelling, but I'm not mad at it.
It's
Like,
interesting
I think it's great.
how
Yeah.
he did this, and Barry Allen in Crisis got the name The Flash from Grant Gustin's the
Oh yeah.
Justice
Oh yeah,
League
that's
one.
right.
And this guy, is like, you know what, that Spider-Man costume those guys were wearing was pretty
Yeah.
cool. I'm gonna do that.
I didn't even think of it
it's
that way.
interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
cute.
Oh,
Yeah.
me neither. Wow.
Yeah.
Should we talk
That's
about
cool.
the
I
end
didn't
credits?
that's great.
I need to see this again.
Oh yeah. So Noel, speaking of there's the mid-credit sequence where Noel had said this would be a nothing burger, quote unquote, a nothing burger. They're just introducing not Tom Hardy.
Yeah, Tom Hardy.
Tom Hardy.
Hardy, yeah.
I'm sorry. Tom Hardy.
Eddie Brock.
I think I was thinking Ed Hardy. Yeah, in the end of Let There Be Carnage, and how he goes over to the MCU, and I was like, "There's no way that there's." He's like, "Yeah, they're just gonna." It'd be so funny if they just got rid of him and they blipped out. It's exactly what they do. Now, for some reason, a little dollop of symbiote stays behind. I'm not sure why, because it's magic. That's not how magic works.
I mean,
would
why'd
assume.
he show up to begin with? He doesn't know Peter Parker's Spider.
Wait, hang on.
I thought
Actually,
the same, but they did.
I asked that on TikTok. You said you saw these, and people responded that it's revealed to Eddie Brock that the symbiote is part of a multi-dimensional hive mind.
Oh,
so
right, and so the hive mind knows.
he knows because at least Topher Grace's Venom knows.
Right.
Yeah, so it's not like something he consciously knows. It's just the symbiote is aware and just got pulled.
And I guess they
unfortunately.
wanted the Venom symbiote in the MCU. Was
Yeah.
the
Yeah,
reason
so-
to do that?
yeah,
or-
sure.
I mean,
I-
let's be honest. Is that any weirder, really, than a space Venom, like a space costume from Secret
so
Wars?
my-
It's not the
yeah,
weirdness.
No, it's not. But my thing about it, like, it all like he's part of one person and he all disappears, so he all goes together. But then I'm thinking, like, well, I mean, if I take a shit in this universe, does the shit that I took go back with me to my universe? Like, no, it's
I'd
just
like to know that too.
it's just excess. It's refuse. It's just it came off him, and that's that. That's my version of history.
That's your canon.
I don't really
that's
mind it.
my head
Makes sense to me. Yeah.
But the second one was the coolest one to me.
The trailer.
Kind of. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Ish.
I loved it.
I don't
Yeah.
like. Actually, okay. Let me rephrase. I don't like when they make end credit scenes trailers. I would rather it be like a scene of some sort or just like something fun. But the trailer itself got me real excited, and the fact that it seems like they're including the what if thing is really cool
Yeah.
and awesome to me.
Wait,
That's
hold
what surprised me.
on. Hold on. I'm not convinced it's the what if version.
Yeah. I'm not either, but if
Because
it
the-
is, then I'd be
Because the
excited.
what if version is mostly reformed and working out like as just a jail keeper.
Well, but-
I brought up the same thing to a friend of mine, and we realized, trailers are often misleading. He might be the what if version. He's just not the bad guy.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, who knows?
It's also possible that, like, the what if version, we know that he was in his own little pocket dimension for a little bit before the what's his name pulled him out. So maybe this is while he was in his own little thing.
I don't need it to be connected. I just think that it's wonderful that the multiverse is the villain in this movie. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But I like to your other comment. I actually love it when the end credit sequence is like a mini trailer. I immediately had like member berries for the end of Captain America: The First Avenger. Their end credits was fucking the first trailer to Avengers, and you're like, it's gonna actually happen. Like I
think they didn't.
I think they should do that more, honestly.
And I think they didn't want to put it as a trailer before the movie because they were worried that it gave stuff away. That's what I had heard. Although it didn't really give anything away in particular, but
there was tons of shit in there. America.
Yeah,
America. You see America Chavez.
No, I mean give something away from Spider-Man.
Oh no, I get that too, but I mean like there's tons of stuff in that trailer. Shumagorath was in that fucking trailer.
Yeah.
Mordo looking like a goddamn badass, and I want to see him do cooler stuff.
He's also not so bad in the MCU as he is in, he's like a villain in the comics.
I loved every second of it. The only thing that I did not like was that goddamn goatee. Like,
oh, I love that bit. It was so
Looks
nice and clean.
It looks like it was sharpied on.
It's like,
well, he has that template. Remember they found that
the
Undercroft.
The goatee, sure, but then like the goatee matched with the awful wig or like the super shiny hair. Like, pick one or the other. Like, he can't have one fake hair piece. He can have one, not two. Anyway,
all right.
Okay.
Is that everybody? Everybody
midnight.
went.
We all went.
It's time to go
it's a marathon.
watch more Spider-Man movies.
I agree.
In my dreams.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. Join us here again next Monday, wherein we'll talk about some comic books, I imagine.
Nope.
Tomorrow night is...
No, not next Monday, apparently.
Oh, right. Shoot. What's next?
2022.
Next Monday?
We might not see anybody until 2022, so...
Yeah.
Oh. We'll see you next year.
In late February. Maybe June.
But until then, you can tweet at us. You can hang out with us on Instagram. You can Facebook us. come to the shop and hang out with us here. Thank you so much, Len. It was wonderful, Brandon, to see both of you. We miss having you on. We miss hanging out with you. So we really appreciate you coming by and chatting Spidey with us. So
thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Thank you. This
All right,
was
y'all.
fun.
It's GTFO. Love you.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.